Bases loaded, 2 down, bottom of the third. Here's the pitch. Swing and a ball drilled, left field. Hernandez back, gone! Grand slam, Anthony Volpe over the left field wall. And Yankee Stadium explodes. It's 5-2 New York. Lefty comes set, 2-2. Here comes. Swing and a ball lifted in the air center field. Judge coming on, and he makes the catch. And that's the ball game. And the Yankees take game 4. And we will have a game 5 here in the Bronx. The Yankees get the grand slam from Volpe early. They get a 3-run homer from Gleyber Torres late. And the Yankees win it 11-4.
I think the schedules or the record is very deceiving. They played some really good teams. Same record against common opponents as we have. You watch them on defense; they're very long, they're very athletic, they're physical, very multiple in their scheme. Can cause some headaches trying to figure out what they're doing, especially on third down. But just real impressive defensive unit as far as team speed, physicality, and athleticism to see on tape. Our guys are locked in. I mean, we're trying to improve every single day, every single week. So, I mean, it's just another opportunity for us to go out there and see how much better and how much more we've developed this week.
Live from 50th and Capitol Avenue in the Big O. This is Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone, 1620thezone.com, and 1620 The Zone TV. Now here's Gary, Nick, and Jimmy.
All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome in on a hump day in the fine state of Nebraska in the city of Omaha on Halloween Eve.
Hallows Eve.
Well, when I was growing up, they called this Beggar's Night. This is the night that we went out trick-or-treating when I was a little kid growing up in Des Moines.
Weather? Really? Cold?
No, well, I don't know.
What was your success rate of going to doors and actually people
really
being
good.
prepared?
We had a great neighborhood, except for the one guy that I believe killed his wife. And ate her.
Ooh.
He was Dahmer before Dahmer.
Damn.
But he'd leave an apple and like wrapped up $20 bills. But you were afraid to take more than one because you thought that he would.
You'd be next?
Yeah.
I've seen Halloween too. I want none of that.
Our neighborhood, this was before like stranger danger and all that kind of stuff. Our neighborhood was really good for Halloween. Like a lot of kids, because there were a lot of kids in the neighborhood that were around the same age. So we all went in packs.
Yeah.
So our neighborhood was great, but Beggar's Night is what it's called, or what I grew up with. So the night before Halloween, like tonight, you'd go out trick-or-treating. I think actually
people should try that tonight.
From some reason, I got an email notification from Urbandale. Been a while. That the weather postponed trick-or-treating.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's
supposed to have storms.
Yeah, it's supposed to have bad weather in Des Moines.
Okay.
When we were younger, that meant snow.
What stumped you here?
I want to go back to someone in your neighborhood.
We got the Boom guys. Were at the Yankee game last night.
Oh God!
Hey, we have another baseball game tonight. There's that.
More baseball is always better.
Yeah,
I got thoughts on those dudes. Excuse me. So you guys had someone in your neighborhood that did what?
So we had a guy named Mr. Holsizer.
Okay.
So in our neighborhood when I was growing up, we had probably 8 or 9 kids that were within about 6-7 years of each other.
Okay.
And we'd always play in the street. We'd play baseball. We'd play football. We'd play all the sports. So we'd always be out in the street playing, riding our bikes, doing that kind of stuff. And, you knew everybody in the neighborhood. But he would be the guy that slowly, like when you saw his car coming down the street, everybody immediately get out of the street.
Oh.
And then he would drive slow and look at everybody. So we were convinced, because this is what you do as a little kid, that you never saw his wife. I saw her one time. She was in like a house gown.
Yeah.
And she I think she was crying for help, but
I'm not laughing, but what?
I only saw her once. And we were all convinced that he killed his wife.
Oh, okay. So this wasn't an actual,
no.
Okay.
But
when you said it very matter of fact.
But
like,
when you're 9 years old and
David
Lemke, who's 14, tells you this, you're like, really?
Yeah.
You related to Mark?
Because he had this field open next to his house that was a great football field.
Nice.
Like it was,
but
probably
also good for burying bodies.
50. I think he buried it in the backyard. But this was next to his house.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah. So it was like everybody was afraid to throw the football in his front yard. But we played football in the yard next to him, and we were always afraid. But for Halloween, he would leave his light on, and on his porch, he would have a table, and it would have an apple, and then it would have wrapped up with a bow on it, little like $5 bills.
Yeah.
And so everybody knew that he was giving away money, but you were so afraid to take more than one because you thought that he would come and kill you.
Yeah.
And eat you.
Yeah. Now, I don't know whatever happened to him.
$20 bills, though. I mean, maybe you had the guy misunderstood.
That went a long way back then.
I don't know. He lived a pretty frugal life. I looked at his cars.
But it was
he had no kids.
Was he buying your silence?
I don't know.
If you took it, it came
the
with
lotion
strings
on
attached.
the skin. Does what it's told.
So he was basically the Urbandale version of Old Man Marley from Home Alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know
Gotcha.
whatever happened to him. I kind of, when I got in high school, I like stopped. I think he may have passed away like when I was in high school, and we just didn't really care by that point. We were on to other serial killers in Des Moines.
Omaha had to cancel Halloween once. PJ Morgan, the mayor at the time, because we had snow.
Was that the 97 snowstorm?
No, this would have been earlier because I was still trick-or-treating. 97, I was a freshman in college.
Okay.
You could still
trick-or-treat.
I didn't. I trick-or-treated for other things.
Mike Johans, who was the mayor of Lincoln at the time, then would go on to be the governor of Nebraska, among other things, he had to cancel Halloween.
Yeah, I wonder, that's a good
97?
question. I wonder if they did in 97. I only remember the ones that impacted
snowstorm.
me. Yes, that was bad. And that happened on a Saturday into Sunday morning. So the following Friday.
Broncos had trouble getting out of Denver that weekend.
Or not Friday. God, I'm trying to remember when Halloween was.
It's usually the 31st of October.
Yeah.
That year was Friday.
Was it?
It was a
okay, so
Friday.
yeah, that's what I thought. It was like, so it would have been the previous Friday or the following Friday?
The next day, Nebraska beat Oklahoma 69-7.
No, it was Saturday into Sunday. So,
well, that was the weekend before because you said you were in Lawrence.
Yes. I'm trying to remember.
We'll go game by game on the
if they did have
97.
impact. If they did have an impact on Halloween, but yes, I remember we went trick or treating on the designated day, which also was a Sunday, and we were one of me and my buddy were maybe one of 10 kids that were out in the neighborhood, and the success rate wasn't high. It was about 50% of people who actually, like, if they had a pumpkin still out or a light on, we assumed that they were participating in the newly designated trick or treat night.
Just go to Heidi,
which was like November
day.
5th. And it was sad, but I just thought I'm like, wow, that's a lot of power for a politician to be able to just say, I'm canceling a holiday.
Yeah,
now I got it. It was snowy, but
I guess it's a controversy over in Des Moines. So the weather here looks, typical.
It'll be chilly tomorrow.
Came out of Baxter Arena last night, and I thought that, man, this feels like a summer night outside.
Yeah, the hot wind.
It's raining now in Omaha. There is some traffic. There's a injury accident on 84th, I heard, coming in. So if you are on I-80, I believe it is eastbound. Okay. It is down to one lane. But welcome in, everybody, off and running on a hump day where we do get more baseball. Thank you for the Yankees for giving us another day of baseball. Mm-hmm. Doesn't change my opinion on how the series is going to be. Mm-hmm. It might be a gentleman's sweep, but at least the Yankees showed up last night. I don't think it's a turning point. I think what happened last night also is the Dodgers running a bullpen game, which still is mind-boggling to me. Yep. Once you give up the Volpe grand slam, you're like, we're good. We're good. We still are up 3-1. We're good. We got a couple more games. We're fine. I don't think this changed the series at all last night. But if it does, there are two Goombas that would be in a victory parade during down the what is it? The
Canyon of Champions.
Canyon of Heroes, Canyon of Champions.
Yeah. Oh, there are no canyons in New York, but
it's
Rhode Island's neither a road nor an island.
Do that to interfere. I mean, we've got our very notable examples of that, including your favorite fan, Steve Bartman. And oddly enough, that this also happened just 2 nights ago out in LA with the exact same batter in Gleyber Torres. But it's another thing to just go all in the way that Chump did. And then his boy, that his future's so bright he's got to wear shades, is actually ripping his arm away so he can't put 2 hands on the baseball. If he being Mookie Betts gets injured, which you were close to doing something to that guy's wrist right there.
Yeah.
Go ahead and file for assault. Go ahead, file, I guess. But go ahead and put in a claim there, because those dudes, and typical Yankee fan, and I'll bring up something also during the
go in on all Yankee fans.
The stand up for cancer part, where you would think at that moment, even the most low of Yankee fans would respect that moment. You still get an F.U. Freeman when they show the actual Yankee dug out there during a moment that I don't care who you're rooting for or what part of the game we're in.
New York doesn't care.
You respect the moment. You just can't do that
Philly
at Yankee Stadium.
care.
But then let's also talk about the Yankee fans that were embracing those two chowderheads, making their way up the field and being escorted out. I mean, there were a lot of them that were treating them like they were heroes.
You know,
that
back.
was the most despicable
do you know,
freaking stuff right there.
They're back. They're back tonight. They aren't banned.
Wow.
That's ridiculous too. You honestly could have hurt Mookie Betts. Like, and I'm not trying to be like, oh,
Jeffrey
come
Mayer
on,
should
man.
join him.
That's true. They
could have hurt him.
They could have broken his arm.
Yes, and it was close. Like his arm was bending in a way that if that goes on for another few seconds, I question if Mookie Betts is not available or if he's actually available for the remainder of the series. That was crap. And the fact that they're not banned from that stadium.
They're back tonight. They're season ticket holders.
Yeah.
Ma and Pa Pinstripe got after them, but the Goombas are going to be back.
The Goombas, I like that, yeah.
After they make an appearance on the Talk to a podcast, because that just seems like where they're going to go.
There's the tag team.
Okay. That would be, yes, that should be the guest.
So this is, I knew we'd probably differ on this. I'm glad you brought up the stand up for cancer moment, which is one of the more powerful things that happens at a live sporting event. And I love that they show it on TV and they spend time and they show fans and players and people that are involved in the broadcast that have the placard and they write the name on, because last night hit close to home for a lot of us.
Yeah.
There is a gentleman who is a Fox photographer or a cameraman, I should say cameraman, that has worked with Matt Kelly. And so he did this last year during the World Series when Matt Kelly, our good friend who passed away over the weekend from cancer, he was diagnosed. And it didn't get on camera, but somebody in the stadium got a picture of it last night. And I don't think it was planned. I think it was Fox has one of their cameramen who has 4 names on a placard that included Matt Kelly, which I was doing the basketball game, so I wasn't watching the game. And immediately started getting texts with screenshots. I thought, wow, that is so cool. But that moment, that is one of the more powerful moments in live sports. To me, the heckling of Freddie Freeman is so much worse than the Goombas that took the ball away, tried to take the ball out of Betts' glove. So that's more to me. I'm actually not going to get riled up about the two Goombas. Okay?
I hated it so much.
It is... And probably I could be where you are, and usually I am. But again, I'm the stand up for cancer heckling of Freddie Freeman is bull.
Oh yeah, it is.
And and any stereotype about a Yankee fan, what a Yankee fan looks like, the Goombas. Okay, okay,
on the nose.
and then the treatment and the act. That's BS. And if that person was sitting next to me during that moment where the stadium is silent, because it's a powerful moment, I'd slug the guy. Now, I probably would have got my ass kicked, and the guy would have turned around and just destroyed me. But you know what? That bothered me more than what happened in the stands last night with Betts. And probably my opinion changed a little bit because of the way Mookie Betts handled it.
Yeah.
Okay, and also it's not my team. I'm not involved in the game. I know that fans are worse today than they were. They're back. They were celebrated.
People
should
suck.
they be? Should
That's
they,
what pissed me
should they
off.
get the attention? Like, will Fox show them on TV tonight when they're back? They are season ticket holders.
They better not.
But it was wild, man. That guy tried to rip the ball out of Betts' glove. And then
trying to explain it away like, oh no, he came in here.
I don't think. I think the buddy was like, whoa, what's going on here? And then jumped into the fray to get involved.
I don't know. He was wearing shades, so God only knows what he was thinking. But, and then the people on the other side of the may I also use Goomba? Because I think that's a very good description right there.
Like Gumps.
On Goomba, on the guy, if you're looking right at him, would be on his left. Guy that's just wearing the New York Yankees shirts, no hat, is just spectating the whole thing with a smile on his face. Again, if you understand, let's say this. If you're smart enough to stay away from that play, I think you're also smart enough that when he's doing that, trying to rip the ball out of the glove, you're pulling the guy back. You're pulling that ass clown back.
Now, does it change your opinion that they did not interfere with the play? They did not reach into the field of play? That Betts came into their front row seat.
Yeah, it does, because again, he's still trying to pry open his glove, trying to
Now,
rip the ball out, and also trying to grab, and the other guy trying to grab his wrist. Like the amount of injuries that could have taken place.
To pull the ball out of the glove is wild. Yeah. That is absolutely like, what the?
If there's, we've seen this so many times.
Sorry,
if there's contact,
after seeing it numerous times this morning, now I'm laughing at it.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, it's like how.
But I'm not gonna get riled up about it. I'm sorry.
It pissed me off from the standpoint of the people that are just kind of like laughing about the whole thing. Again, I'm just thinking about if Mookie Betts hyperextends his wrist or even over by his forearm breaks a bone or something, what the hell are we talking about today?
Again, if Betts is injured, my opinion changes. But Betts after the game, he handled it appropriately.
He did. He absolutely did.
Yeah, he gave him the business. Yeah. And Torres was out. Yeah. And they got the out.
And good,
and they move on. And
good on the umpires.
And the two guys get booted and they'll be back tonight.
Good on the stadium officials for getting him out of there, even though they tried to explain it away, all that stuff. But the thing that pissed me off more than anything is that there were not just one, but several Yankee fans on their walk of shame out.
Yeah, it wasn't even a walk of shame. Why are you surprised? Okay. Did you remember? You remember at the College World Series with the Texas A&M fans that came down to get after Kevin O'Sullivan?
No, and that's a great example.
They walk across the street and
beers,
people are buying them shots. People are taking selfies with them.
That's a great example.
People are a-holes.
People suck.
That's the bottom line.
And they are. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
People are a-holes.
But when we
see
in that
situation,
examples,
why are you surprised? Why are you surprised that when they come up the aisle, people are giving them a high five? They're at Yankee Stadium. They're Yankee fans. If that's a Yankee fan doing it at a Dodger game, they're probably mowed under.
So this is. I don't want to say.
And then there's a lot of pictures on. Because they're both from Connecticut. I mean, the names are known. They're probably frequent WFAN callers
or employees.
But there's a lot of people because they went across the street to the big bar that they keep showing on TV across the street. And they went there and they're like, people were taking selfies with them. They're like, oh, I recognize you guys.
Here, and I want to say I'm surprised. It just still pisses me off because I know some people that are Yankee fans. And man, if you ever question their overall fan base, they get so defensive, just so defensive of, you guys think we're the most classless fans. You know, you guys got fans like, there was this one time a guy that I know, huge Yankee fan. I can't remember. I said something about a classless Yankee fan once and he jumped all over me and immediately was showing screenshots of people outside of Jacobs Field protesting the Cleveland Indian mascot. I'm like, okay, so if you wear a Cleveland Indian Chief Wahoo hat, then you're a classless fan. Like they get so defensive of they've got this bad rep.
Because there's a stereotype.
Yes. I mean, and there is.
And
look,
it's either the Goomba or the Joey Bag of Donuts. Nice.
So I would think that there's at least one Yankee fan that pisses off because now you're again you're adding to the narrative. You're making us look bad. That at least one person on their way up would get in their face and be like, "What the hell, are you guys?"
I don't think so. I think the diehard Yankee fan that goes to Yankee Stadium is like, "I'm good. That was funny. Yeah. We won the game." Now, again, if Betts is injured or the Dodgers sweep, it's probably different.
Yeah.
But they won.
Oh, sure.
They stay alive for another day. They get a final day.
Yeah, it's part of the circus.
And if things go south tonight, you'll probably see fans that, it's pretty simple. When you go to a game these days, don't be an a-hole. Don't go to Ohio Stadium and get pissed and start chucking stuff on the field. Yep. Don't be Texas fan. Mm-hmm. But here's what's happened. Like, do you guys think that the sports fan is worse today than they were in the past?
I don't know if I can say that, Gary, because we have
publicized more.
Yes, now we have cell phones. Now we have more ways to capture really bad, unruly fan behavior. Even television coverage. We have more cameras to catch all that stuff in the moment. I'm sure that fandom was as bad. Maybe I don't know. Maybe at times worse. People are gonna. I'm sure people are gonna hit me up with, this generation of entitlement and everything. I don't even know if I could say that definitively because we do. We have more ways of finding out because of phones and because of social media. Things are immediately put up there where you maybe didn't even see anything. How many times are we just watching an NFL game and then later that night we see some type of incident that took place in the stands? I didn't see that during the broadcast, but that stuff immediately now goes viral. Back then, it didn't. What the hell was viral back then?
See, I think fans are worse today because today you can message a player and tell him to go kill himself.
Yeah,
after a bad game.
Again,
that is not nice.
Back in the day,
you had to write a letter.
What else could you do?
You had to write a letter or find a phone.
What'd you do? Throw a beer, call into a radio station and complain?
Yeah.
So fans are worse today because they're entitled and the tickets cost more. So you think if you pay more, you should get more return on your investment. It's pretty easy. going to a sporting event where you pay to get in, and most of the time you pay pretty good money, don't be an a-hole.
Yeah.
Don't be an a-hole. I think that's maybe that's my closing message
Don't
here
be
in
a
the
Richard today.
In the last week is don't be an a-hole.
Yeah. It'll always happen.
Well, I don't know that. I don't know that's fair to say it'll always happen.
Well, you're always going to. You're always going to have moments of this.
We've had one incident really in this state where we've had terrible fan behavior, and that was from a Goomba from North Dakota, who paid the price and spent some time as a resident of Douglas County.
No, but like I said, you're always going to have moments of this in sports. I mean, and like you said, why am I surprised? It's not that I'm surprised. It's that it still triggers me when you have moments like that are, whether it's in a regular season game or a postseason game like that, and you're being celebrated. Like if I'm,
you're right. Like there should not be.
There's zero surprise.
These two guys should not be on like the fan this morning. Ken Rosenthal should not be down the right field line interviewing them tonight. Dave Fox shouldn't be showing them.
Yeah. That's what always triggers me is that they get celebrated like that. I know for a fact that if I am in now, I want to say I'm ashamed of this, but when we were at a Bears game and it was towards the end of the game, there was people sitting in front of us. Robbie Gould missed a field goal that would have won the game.
This your Arrowhead story?
No, this is at Soldier Field. These guys were kind of clowns to begin with, but they were Bears fans, and they were just obnoxious as hell. And this guy, after Robbie Gould misses a field goal, he literally pounds the drink holder that it just splits the entire seat. Mm-hmm. So he just destroyed it.
Wow.
And we text the line that you can text if there's an unruly behavior or anything like that. We text them.
How'd that work out?
They got there immediately.
How about that?
Yeah, that in stadiums.
And because I thought that was bull crap, but these people were, there were four of them. It was just me and my wife. There were four of them and they were inebriated. I wasn't about to get confrontational with them, but I also didn't want that to go unchecked either. And so I hope there were Yankee fans that were in the stadium that were pissed about that.
I don't think
really
so.
do.
I just don't. I'm looking at the reaction. Like I'm in the Yankee Stadium.
Look at Jeffrey Mayer.
They probably started doing the roll call.
Yeah.
Hey, Goomba.
Now, what would have been better?
Come out and play?
Hey, it would have been better if that was the Costco father and son and we bring the boom. That would have been like the most planted incident to increase their cred, I guess.
Maybe I could have accepted it a little bit more if it was the guys, if the Costco boys. I might have been able to accept it a little bit more because they've been part of the bit.
So, no attention to these guys, but they will be on the Talk to a podcast. Pookie!
I saw Hawk Tua's biggest fan yesterday gassing up, bumper sticker and all, says Hawk Tua. And
here?
Then in yeah, just down the street. In fact, at the Casey's over off of Dodge.
Wow!
I was getting some gas. I saw a car in front of me. It had a Hawk Tua bumper sticker, and then at the very bottom it says "spit on that thing."
Wonder who they're voting for.
The latest episode.
I was curious on what the person would look like when they came out. I'm like, oh,
hey,
didn't see that coming.
I watched that stuff.
Very, very large individual.
I watched that stuff. It is, hey, God bless this
Gary's
country.
response to it was, new episode dropping at 11.
Hey, I'm all for people getting the bag in this country.
Yeah.
It is, you got to watch it, man.
I gave it 10 minutes.
It's absolutely incredible that
I should have watched that last Saturday
I don't even know where to go, but like the latest episode is, even I was a little bit uncomfortable. Rick writes in, tweets in at Gary Sharp 1620 at Nick Handley 1620. Did the one jabroni have LASIX or something earlier in the day? What's up with sunglasses at night game? Yeah. Sunglasses at night is only a song from the 80s.
He was dilated.
Remember when people got upset that Hayden Fry always wore sunglasses?
Yeah.
They were slick.
People thought Jim McMahon was doing it to be cool, to kind of go with the punky QB thing. But people didn't realize that he had a fork stuck in his eye when he was a little boy. And so he had a really bad glare in his eye.
It's just wild that they tried to pry the ball out of Betts' glove.
And they're like, how dare you try to grab the ball back, player? I'm going to pull your arm away.
It's like kind of funny.
You could just.
I couldn't believe it.
Bruin Steve said, fans are worse due to social media and trying to go viral.
Agreed.
We have more of a connection to our athletes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I tell you, the Texas incident and then what happened at Ohio State is, we're now going to have to talk about college because I've heard more now that we're firmly into the NIL era, about it's okay to lash out at student athletes in college because they make money now. It's okay to bring up the fact that they are involved in politics. Now, you can go wherever you want with that, but in college, it's more now, well, they're getting paid. My coach makes $9 million. Hell yes, I better get a return on investment. If not, I'm going to give him the business. So that flames it. But we feel more entitled as a fan because we're closer to athletes because we can connect with them. In the past, the only way you could connect with them is go and stand outside of the entrance to a ballpark and try and get their autograph or go to a game. Now I can DM an athlete and say, you know what? You cost me blankety, 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 go kill yourself. And you feel like you're connected to that athlete because they are living their brand on social media. So that's why I think the fan behavior is worse. Mike Milbury might disagree with me. But again, back in the day, what was the worst fan behavior? Throwing beer and hoping that the guys didn't come up in the stands and start beating you with a skate?
Yeah, pretty much.
But nowadays you feel entitled. I mean, you feel like you go to a ballpark and that's your place. Not, oh man, it's so cool to be here. I don't know. I mean, what'll happen is this will get a lot of attention today because of the incident. I hope not because the two guys, I don't know what they do for a living, but they probably are on the fan right now.
Yeah. I think we kind of know.
But look so it kind of has, teed up if the Dodgers win the night and they clinch and they win the World Series, what the fan behavior will be like because where there will be a total meltdown. Now, also remember, that's the same ballpark that after the Yankees won a World Series in the 70s, people stormed onto the field.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a crazy thing. If you look at old...
Like Chambliss's home run?
Yeah, like if you look at games, especially the Yankee Stadium back in the 70s, when the Yankees would win a World Series, fans would flood onto the field.
Hell, even when they lost.
Onto the field.
Well, and don't forget in Game 6 of the 04 ALCS, they had to finish the last two games with cops out in riot gear because of the A-Rod when he knocks the ball out of Bronson Arroyo's glove, and then they end up calling interference. And so you've got beer bottles that are being thrown on. They had to pull the teams off, and then they had to wait till cops in riot gear are down the third and first base line so they could finish the game.
I still think what the heckling during the Stand Up for Cancer moment last night is much worse than those two fans.
That's fair. And I'm right there with you because, and there's a part of that.
By the way, Volpe hit a grand slam and he got his picture taken with Jeter.
So for a moment, I did think they were going to draw attention when I was watching the postgame to the fans because they said, and then you've got a lifelong New York fan who had a major impact in this game. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But then I realized it's Volpe that they were talking about. I'm like, come on, don't do it. You brought up the Stand Up for Cancer, how that's I don't even think it's fastly becoming. I think it just has been one of the most powerful moments in sports. There's one thing that I think maybe I appreciate about it in just the, again, it doesn't matter what part of the game it is. It doesn't matter where you're at. 99% of people that are in attendance or playing are going to respect that moment. But it's also a chance to see, some of the people like we're talking about, that maybe you criticize their play. Maybe someone is 0 for 5 and they're one of your, they're one of your bigger impact type of players. Yet you see them holding a card that says for mom or for dad, and you didn't know that. And I think it puts a lot of things in perspective.
But don't you think it's we look now as fans as athletes or entertainers?
Yeah,
that they're not human.
Yeah.
Okay? They're there. We pay money, go entertain us, and I'm not saying everybody, but I think there is a sentiment of I pay money, entertain me.
Mm-hmm. I can do whatever I want to do, and you can take it.
Perform something, and you know what? You're a robot, and then you know what? You're hurt. Go out there and play.
Yep.
Come on.
Yep.
Come on. You're my team.
Yep.
So
that's absolutely
there
right.
are moments that it always brings you back if you're in that category of just entertain me, athlete. When people are human.
Yeah.
I mean, player with the Niners yesterday, his 1-year-old daughter passes away. I mean, it's just it's like the athletes are real.
Yeah.
It's kind of like we're looking at college now. I mean, you got an adult and you got a kid that yesterday were in the spotlight in Lincoln. One makes a lot of money. The other makes a lot of money. Both of them have to have a relationship together. Both of them have different vibes with the media.
Whoa, you just tied this back in flawlessly. Nice.
I mean, I think we look at our athletes differently, and I think
Yes.
money has come a big part of it. And because we pay a lot of money, so we think that just entertain me. So when these moments, like you were alluding to, Nick, where you can see the human side of a player and you go, oh yeah, that is Freddie Freeman, the guy in the offseason that lives in suburban Atlanta.
Right.
Instead of Freddie Freeman of, hit me another home run. I mean, I can't believe you've only hit in 6 straight games. Why can't you hit in 7? And he'll go, well, we haven't played that 7th game yet.
Yeah, well, and Freddie Freeman is a great example of that.
He's a cancer survivor.
And what
I hope he hits 3 home runs
what he
tonight
dealt
and wins
with his son earlier this year too.
I should say Freddie from, yes, his son.
His son, yeah. I mean, has been directly impacted, and not that I don't care if it's an older relative, someone your age or younger, but something about, your child as well. And when he returned, seeing the amount of compassion that even some of your more bitter rivals were showing you. I remember they were playing the Phillies when he returned, and every time someone had a chance to interact with him, like you could see both of them. I remember he and Bryce Harper, just during the game, whatever Bryce Harper said to Freddie Freeman, they both teared up. And so it's a great thing. I think in the midst of all of what happened last night with fan interference and the amount of criticism that they get, it's the same thing when you see a student athlete, even say if you see Dylan Raiola at a Starbucks, you're in awe because we prop them up as if, like you just said, they are entertainers for us. Even student athletes, you're absolutely right, because of the NIL part of it.
Buy him a pumpkin.
They're above anything that I could ever throw at them, but you're also in awe when you see them, and that's why. But I think there are moments like that, like last night, and that's why I'm with you. It pisses me off when people crap all over that moment by just being a chucklehead fan. That I'm still gonna badmouth Freddie Freeman during what should be a very sobering moment of this game and a very important moment of this game that means a lot to everybody that's holding up a placard.
Jake, who is a Braves fan, Flaky Jake, says Freddie's mom died of cancer when he was pretty young. That's why he always wears long sleeves during every day game he's ever played.
I think
she had skin cancer.
Yeah.
Well, he is on one heck of a heater.
Yeah.
Destiny.
I mean, he is right
sweet.
there. I brought it up yesterday of like athletes that are dialed in.
Yeah.
Him and Mad Bum from 14.
Yep.
They are on the
Absolutely.
same plane. All right. Let me give you the lineup for the show. A big volleyball match at Baxter Arena coming up tomorrow night. So you can trick or treat when the Mavs take on South Dakota State, the only unbeaten team in college volleyball across the country. They'll be at Baxter Arena tomorrow night. Matt Buttermore, the head Mav, will join us coming up at 8:30. Jay Moore stops by at 9 to wrap up October and get ready for UCLA. Brandon Vogel from Counter Reed as well. That's the lineup brought to you by the Rooferys at John Higgins Weather Guard. We're off and running a little bit more on World Series Game 4 last night. If you like baseball, we get one more day of baseball. Will we get another day past that? After the Dodgers basically last night said, we're good. We're on to Game 5 and let the Yankees score a lot of runs, make their fans happy. Will tonight be the last night of baseball for 2024? Plus, a lot of stuff from Lincoln yesterday. Some fake outrage, some other stuff. I think everybody got trolled. I'll explain. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, welcome back in on The Zone. Mornings with Sharp and Handley. Jimmy is here as well. Get you an update coming up after the top of the hour. As I was leaving Baxter Arena last night, they were setting up for a big press conference. I asked Adrian Dow, I said, hey, you guys, who are you guys hiring? They got the podium out there. They had balloons. They were putting up stanchions for like banners.
Wow.
And then I found out that today at Baxter Arena, they're going to announce the Monopoly Omaha edition.
I'm sorry,
Like the game?
Yeah, so
Okay.
Monopoly is going to have an Omaha edition, and people are very curious on what local spots will be featured.
Hit pothole, go back 3 spaces.
So
Road construction.
So
You're eliminated.
that would be a good
that
one.
that would be the snarky Monopoly Omaha edition.
Yep.
So you have the zoo.
Yeah.
I imagine the riverfront,
The bridge.
The zone?
maybe the bridge. By the way, the baby bob got
Bridge.
delayed.
Yeah.
That's a loss for Omaha.
I was very proud. Proud, maybe not the best way to describe it, but when my in-laws were in town over the Labor Day weekend, we were walking on Big Bob, and then I showed them
Little Bob,
Little Bob.
were they
And-
excited?
No, not really.
Ooh.
I know. I was like, I
Little
try,
Bob, Little
I really
Bob's-
try to
Little
sell
Bob,
it.
Little Bob, Nick, is a game changer.
Yeah, I said Little Bob will go over there though. Look at where Little Bob will take
Little
you.
Bob will
And
take
then-
you right to the home of the College
And
World
when
Series.
I told them that, they said, "Oh, okay. Well, that's actually pretty smart." But they still weren't in awe of the way I hoped that they would be. Like, "Oh my God, there's going to be a Little Bob too."
Are people still in awe of the bridge?
I don't think I've ever
People-
been on it.
Really?
You need
Well,
to
we were
ask
going to,
Outsiders.
but then we got tired. It was like, this is a long walk.
You can make it move back and forth.
I mean, earthquakes do that in San Francisco, too.
Oh, you don't need an earthquake for that.
I have
Remember coming back from
a,
a
I
311
have a
concert, and I
tradition.
got scared.
I have a tradition during Nebraska-Iowa football week. I will stand in the middle. So
Yes.
I'm both in Nebraska and Iowa and take a selfie.
Oh,
It's a tradition.
So that did
It is
happen on
it's
Labor Day weekend.
It's a tradition like none other.
Oh yeah. Every time I don't know. I did a 5K that took you over Bob.
Mhm.
Thank goodness nobody was stopping and taking pictures. That would have been bad. But
Plow 'em over.
every time I've been over that bridge, there's not only one person taking the picture, but somebody waiting till that person gets done.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's a
mean, it
very
always
romantic thing to do.
Propose in
Yeah,
one
you
state, say
propose
yes in the
two-
other.
Yeah,
Iowa guy meets a Nebraska gal, or
Yeah.
vice versa.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's where you go to
Yeah.
propose.
Ed says, don't forget this is also John Nicely's 50th anniversary of being in broadcasting from Channel 6.
Oh my goodness,
50 years.
that's crazy.
So he'll be on the game. He'll be one of the pieces.
That could happen.
What would happen if you roll a John Nicely?
John Nicely is kind of interesting right now in his career. And he's had a hell of a career. By the way, sports guy.
Yeah, I told you guys I challenged John. Used to
So
be a segment.
So once in a while, I will see the 5 o'clock Channel 6 telecast.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's John
yes.
and 3 ladies, or at least like Clayton, the sports guy for Channel 6, will like pop in.
John's
But
Angels.
They
Gotta
have,
round out
his
everything.
co-anchor is a female, and the weather gal is a female.
Yeah.
I don't know if I should say what. The meteorologist
Meteorologist?
is a female.
Yes.
Emily.
Yes.
Interesting crosstalk. Just interesting crosstalk.
Just leave it at that.
Yep. But congratulations, that's 50 years.
That's impressive.
Channel
He's
6.
a
You got,
workout.
you got Mike McKnight.
In the
You got
same market.
John Nicely and John Chapman.
Yeah.
Guys that have been here before TV had color. That's awesome. That's awesome. So this little like kind of, I'm not poo-pooing the reaction to the Goombas last night at Yankee Stadium, but I think there is some fake outrage out there. I can't buy into the outrage about Marcus Satterfield's 7 minutes with us yesterday. I think
That's different compared to what?
so. People are like, this guy is an absolute clown. I'm past Satterfield. I know
Wore my
what
vest in
I know what
solidarity.
I know what the offense is. Okay, the offense got to score some points. I don't want to hear about anything about new wrinkles. You got to score points. You got to score points to win the game. Okay.
Said something.
I've watched a lot of football in my life, and people that score points actually win football games. I don't give up about yards, okay?
Yeah, that's right.
I give up about points. So I can't waste any more brain cells on Nebraska's inefficiency on offense, and part of it is execution, which, by the way, yesterday was a day where Nebraska's quarterback position with the guy that is becoming the face of the program is in a good spot.
Mhm.
That's what leaders do yesterday, protecting their OC,
Yeah.
knowing that you know what? Part of the reason on Saturday was my fault, and we got to be better at execution. But rest assured, Nebraska's in a good spot with Dylan Raiola as the quarterback, okay, because he gets it. He's a pro. Mm-hmm. He is a pro playing in college. He just needs the type of game to match that. But he handles things like a pro, and that was a good moment yesterday. And then Satterfield talked for 7 minutes. Here is a guy that is from suburban Knoxville, and he's got a very dry sense of humor. And I think yesterday he knew that the week before was bad.
Yeah.
He tried to make a joke, and it completely fell flat on talking about Dylan running.
Yeah.
And it just shows you that there probably is no coming back for Marcus Satterfield in the eyes of the public.
Did you notice how
because
he
got crushed?
Yeah.
Absolutely
and he knows
crushed.
It.
And I'm like, I think he was trying to make a joke,
yeah.
but his delivery is so dry, and he's
I didn't even know he could
and
run
he's
like
not
that.
Like he doesn't get the benefit of the doubt anymore.
No,
that people are like, this guy's got to go.
What did you call him a while back? But you did it in a term of endearment. You called him a goober.
No, I didn't call him a goober.
I thought it was a goober.
I think I might call him a bumpkin.
No, I think you called him a goober.
Did I call him a goober?
Because
okay. Bumpkin, though.
I really appreciated the use of goober, and I agree. And
Are goobers
it was
and bumpkins the same?
It was in sort of a positive way, like,
Yeah,
he just called him a goober.
I think he was trying to make a joke to break up the room.
Yes.
And when your offense,
of course, you didn't know
points,
he could do that.
When your offense isn't putting up points, you make a odd statement and people jump all over it. I'm past it. I will wait and see what happens with that. But it also shows you that
tough
either
room.
either for the good or
That's
bad.
What he should have said right there too. He should have stopped. Just went, whoa, tough room.
I mean, wait till he shows up at the Funny Bone to do stand up. He's got that kind of humor that is very dry. Now I'm not taking away from you got to be better at your job.
Sure.
I mean that's just plain and day. And again, I'm not wasting any more brain cells about that. But there is a bye week coming up. Yeah. Rule said it was like in the moment, couldn't make changes. You never know. But here's what it shows. It's either for the good or the bad about this fan base is that we dig into so much content. Turkey call is back this morning.
That. I tried to go really light on it.
And I don't
see Nick's water.
I'm going to stand up for people that go, Nebraska. We're a smart fan base. Okay. We know our football. We like to talk about our football. Yeah. We listen. We maybe sometimes go over the top. Is
a tad.
You have to understand so many people watch press conferences that follow this program that when you are either before or after Tony White, who is very comfortable speaking, and then you have a head coach who is the best PR head coach that the University of Nebraska has ever had.
Yep, always usually hits
and
the right
then
note.
When you are not, that's not your forte, is to talk to the media and answer questions in like precise, there's a rhythm to your answering of questions.
Yeah.
You are going to get raked over the coals.
Yes.
I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing around here, but Marcus Satterfield is in that category. And there's really, in terms of the eyes of the public, I don't think there's a moment to come back.
Yeah.
Unless your month of November a bunch of young guys look so much better. That'd be the only way, in my opinion, that people go, okay, because even when the quarterback, Nick, says, well, execution, they're like, well, I should have called the damn play.
Oh, yeah, exactly. There's always about, Dylan, I hear you, but come on. Yeah.
If that guy can't execute, take him off the field. We'll just play with 10.
Well, and you're never going to get, at least for the rest of this season, even if a game is objectively called very, very well, there's higher level of execution. And let's say there's a bowl trip that is accompanying that. You're not going to get, you know what? Actually, maybe I was, you're not going to get, you'll just get less Satterfield criticism. You won't get the about face of, I was wrong. You're not going to get that the rest of the year. But yeah, you're right. But did you notice? I don't know. Maybe it was just me. When I always think about when your name is being thrown around the way that Satterfield's is, and there's people in the room that you're entertaining questions from that harbor some of those doubts about you. That's got to be kind of awkward, I would think. You got to be a professional. You got to know that, hey,
but isn't that
you're making the money?
You went through it. South Carolina's fan base is pretty passionate.
Sure, yes.
So he kind of got an inkling of what he's walking into.
And I just thought it was very funny, at least to me, that as he gets there, because first of all, the 7-minute thing, come on. Opposed to his 8 minutes the week before or the 2 previous weeks, come on. But he kind of had a smirk on his face, like, good morning. And he's just kind of looking around.
Yeah.
It was almost kind of a, hi, everyone. Like, I know what you're thinking about me right now. Let her rip.
He's in the back of his head going, man, we got to score 35 this weekend. We
He
got to
just- I
score
don't know.
35.
He was like, good morning.
I'm done.
I'm happy to be here.
I'm done judging on Tuesday. I've seen basically all I need to see on Saturday, and that's how you should be judged.
Mhm.
But I thought yesterday was kind of, I knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
I've been in the public speaking forum. I knew what he was trying to do,
Just fell flat. You're right.
but he's so dry that it just flops.
He could tell. He could say one of the funniest things or funniest observations that would just be right on. But the way he delivered, you'd be like, "Huh? Wait, say what?" Yeah.
I do like though. Sometimes we say, "Hey, man, you guys in Lincoln, you got to have rabbit ears." That's coaches don't have rabbit ears. They might individually listen or consume, or they have somebody else. I'm okay because Matt Rule listens, he reads, he talks to people.
But he doesn't get overly offensive either.
No, I'm okay with they know what the general chatter is, but they're not going to get caught up in it. It's not going to influence their decisions because if it does, then you shouldn't be in that position anyhow.
Absolutely.
Okay, you're a CO for a reason. Just because, Husker Mike is on Twitter and he's crushing your program doesn't mean that you should make wholesale changes. Just because you want to keep the follow of Husker Mike so you stay above 40,000 followers. Now, there's nobody in their right mind that is an adult and a CEO that makes decisions off of Husker Mike on Twitter.
Right. Sorry,
but I'm glad that they are aware of things that are out there because you know what? It's your program. You want to know what the vibe is because you got to go out and you got to meet these people.
Yep.
So you don't want to walk into a room thinking, man, everybody loves me. And you walk into a room and you go to Holy Ghost and people just stare at you. And you're like, whoa, I thought we were in a good.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
Coach, were you on the plumber's website? Do you have personal access? You got to see what they're saying over there about you. I'm judging on Saturday, not on Tuesday, but I'm also judging on the Raiolas, the Barneys, the Nelsons, the Fedonis, young guys on offense, what they do in the final month of the season. And that will add to judging this offense. But I trust the guy in charge that he will make the right decision, what is best for everybody on offense to move forward, because you can't live in a world where you struggle to score more than 3 touchdowns against Power 4 teams.
Yes, I'd agree.
All right. Jimmy's got an update coming up next a little bit later. Matt Buttermore, head volleyball coach at Omaha. Jay Moore will stop by. Brandon Vogel as well, as we are midweek ahead of UCLA.
I feel good.
Used to be a big game around here, like a big game. It'd be cool in the
Uniform
non-con.
game.
Oh, great uniform game.
Brett Hundley's coming to town.
Wayne Cook.
Troy Aikman.
I could have led with Troy Aikman, but I thought I'd work my way back.
Mark
Nice.
Harmon.
Yeah. Who was the quarterback in the Foster Farms Bowl? Wasn't that
Josh Rosen.
Rosen, yeah. That's what I thought. Yeah. Remember that guy?
Oh, yeah. I remember that guy. He used to have a little kiddie pool in his dorm.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he probably made a lot of money.
I'm sure he did. NFL thing didn't work out very well, but that tends to happen.
It's a tough league.
It is.
It's a tough league.
Dog eat dog.
It's Mornings with Sharp and Haley on 1620 The Zone.
Omaha men's basketball cruises to a 101-62 win over York in an exhibition game last night at Baxter Arena. They went on a run up 26-8, 8 minutes in as they hit 5 3-pointers. The lead grew to 45-18 with 7 minutes left in the first half. Markel Sutton, the Mavs' top returning scorer, hit 4 threes in the first 11 minutes. Finished tonight with 27 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. J.J. White and Grant Stubblefield also were in double figures with 11 points each. 7 Mavs hit 3-pointers as Omaha hit 9 of its 12 threes in the first 17 minutes. They opened the regular season at home Monday against Mid-America Christian, and then they won't be back to the very end of November. Lots of hotel rooms coming up.
3 straight weekends on the road.
You got your Netflix downloaded. You got your shows that you're going to be watching. Always a good thing to have.
Omaha and the non-con will play in all 4 time zones.
Nice.
All right.
It's like the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Easy breezy last night. That was this is a different kind of team. They play a pace that is similar to that up and down that Coach Hansen had when they were winning a lot of games with Tradeon Hollins, and they were exciting, and people like that style. So they're going to play a little bit more up-tempo. Markel Sutton could be one of the top should be one of the top players in the Summer League. He had 27 last night. So he's 6'9". He can shoot the 3. He can score at all 3 levels. But he had 8 little bone fragments that were floating in his elbow that they did not know until he went in to have it looked at after last season. And so he had off-season elbow surgery. He's back. It makes a world of difference. Plus, he's in great shape. He'll be one to watch. I think he will be one of the top players in the Summer League this year, and Omaha needs him to be.
I saw brought up after the game for some people that were there, so I got to ask you, just because you were calling it something or nothing that they got out-rebounded.
I mean, they knew that was going to be a problem. They also had one of their best rebounders didn't play.
Okay.
So start for real on Monday.
Yes.
Can't believe basketball is here.
Oh, it is.
Walked in to Baxter last night.
Smell like basketball?
No.
Musty and
It was
warm.
cold.
Oh, cold.
So it was like 70. I got out of the car, and it was 75.
Yeah.
I walked into Baxter. It was cold last night in there. Oh.
It's still got hockey going on then. Okay.
Nick, they haven't gotten rid of hockey.
No, I know.
I mean, they lose 4 in a row. They don't say,
but they're off this weekend. Hey, speaking of hockey, Victor Mancini continued to get points. The Rangers got an assist last night.
And by the way, I don't know. I don't know if the Omaha hockey account recognized it. Jake Gensel scored his 500th point the other night for Nashville. Or no, Tampa Bay.
Did they not put something out for that? Just assume
I only saw what Tampa Bay did.
Okay. I'll have to go back on that.
Nebraska Volleyball announces 2 start team changes for matches in November. Their November 9th road match at Washington will begin at 9:30. Get a grandpa nap in. It'll be on Big Ten Network. Also, the November 23rd home match against Wisconsin at Devaney will begin at 7 p.m. instead of the originally scheduled time of 8 p.m. And that match will also be televised on the BTN. The Chicago White Sox are hiring Rangers coach Will Venable to be their next manager. The 42-year-old Venable played 9 years in the big leagues before transitioning to an off-the-field role as a special assistant with the Cubs in 2017, and then a base coach from 2018 to 2020. He was Boston's bench coach in 2021 before being hired by Texas, where he served as associate manager next to Bruce Bochy for the past 2 seasons. It's quite the grad school for baseball. It's a good hire. The majority of Venable's playing career was spent in San Diego before he was traded to the Rangers in 2015. He played for the eventual world champion Dodgers in 2016 before retiring. The Colts are benching Anthony Richardson, turning to Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback. The ageless Joe Flacco, now 74 years old. Freddie Freeman homered in the first inning of Game 4 of the World Series last night, breaking a World Series record with a homer in 6 consecutive games. Freeman, whose injuries have hobbled him and limited him to only singles to the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, has found his power stroke in said World Series. His latest home run came off an 86-mile-an-hour slider from Yankees right-hander Luis Gil, giving the Dodgers a 2-0 lead. The lead was short-lived, however, as the Yankees decided to participate in the series. Good for them. And they won their first game of the series last night 11-4. Thus, the baseball season continues for at least one more night. Game 5 tonight in the Boogie Down Bronx. Iowa quarterback Cade McNamara out for the week against Wisconsin, after leaving Saturday's win against Northwestern with a concussion. Brendan Sullivan, a transfer from Northwestern, replaced McNamara in the second quarter Saturday and is listed as the starter. Kirk Ferentz said he was hopeful McNamara would return to face UCLA in their much-anticipated 1986 Rose Bowl rematch on November 8th. Shout out Eric Ball. Finally, Texas Tech quarterback Baron Morton looked strong in practice on Tuesday and is expected to start on Saturday at America's team, the 11th ranked by God undefeated Iowa State Cyclones. He did not play in the second half last week against TCU with a left shoulder injury. Cost me money, thanks. Tech squandered a 17-point third quarter lead and fell 35-34 to TCU, and he spent the second half in street clothes with an arm in a sling. Sure was fashionable.
Thank you, Jimmy. I did look. They have not.
They didn't.
So Gensel
Okay.
had an assist to get to 500 points on Monday night for Tampa Bay, and they've not put anything up. So maybe they'll do that today because that's a big deal.
That is a big
Former
deal.
Mav Jake Gensel.
It was a big deal.
I want to mention you didn't mention this in the update. I'm looking at some of the all-name teams for college basketball. Like there is a guy that plays for Kansas City that is called Gob.
Nice.
G-O-B.
That's got to be
hope
top 3.
Hey, I hope he plays.
Did he watch Arrested Development?
I don't know. I don't know if he how much he plays, but I can't wait because Omaha will play Kansas City twice.
Yeah.
There is a guy that plays for Oregon named Supreme Cook. What a great name as a basketball player.
Oh, for Oregon,
Supreme Cook.
Isn't there's also an Always Right?
Yeah.
Always Right for Rhode Island?
I mean, come on, parents. Did Nebraska baseball get one of the best names on a commitment yesterday out of Papio South in the class of 2026? He is, by the way, he is thick. I bet Cordell is 5'10", 190, right-handed hitter. I guess you'd label him a little bit as a utility player. I'm not sure where Omaha will use him. But once he gets his arms extended, I mean, he's a really good player. He committed to Nebraska yesterday in the class of 26. Cordell Klinkingbeard.
Nice.
That is really, really
Cordell Klinkingbeard. That is an A-plus name that'll be joining the Nebraska baseball roster in 2026.
NILs are endless possibilities.
And he better, at least for the just to kind of keep up with the last name, there better be a heavy beard on that guy too. But clinking beard too. You think that's fantastic. I'm trying to think of some of the great Nebraska baseball names that we've had. That might
Will
be,
Bolt.
Yeah, I mean, really, go back to that one. Especially if you're a fan of the Natural, and you could have the Thunderbolt on the old.
It's
the
not
Wonder
it's
Boy.
Not, it's not like in the category of Gob, but
Gob is great.
I've only met one Alvy in my entire life, and that was Alvy Shepard, who pitched at Nebraska.
Okay, yeah. What about a Tennessee Rainwater from Utah Tech?
Nice.
Tennessee Rainwater. There's also a Cal U. Cal U from
Cal.
How's he spell his last name?
YU.
So he has more letters in his first name.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Than
It's
his
KU.
last name?
It's KU. It's KU. It's KAIYU.
Oh.
Sorry, I thought the I was an L for a moment. Yeah,
it's
it's
the wrong place.
It's KU at Liberty.
You know,
and then there's Po Boy King from NC Central.
So there's a couple of things that I have life lessons that I just avoid. You cannot trust anybody that has more letters in their first name than their last name.
Oh.
And then I also, if you meet somebody that has a name that can be either for a male or female, I pause for a moment and don't know if they'll ever get into the trust tree.
Hey, now, my son is in that category.
Well, I've seen that. I've seen him playing basketball recently.
Dribbling optional.
Hey, now you're going to need to dribble up the floor.
Yeah, it's optional.
No, I'll just carry the ball up the floor.
LeBron does it.
Tyler says, yes, this one, Mojo Haggy. Is Mojo Haggy the best name that's ever played for Nebraska baseball?
Yeah, that was a pretty good one.
He used to coach at Odessa Permian.
Mojo. Yeah, that was pretty good. Morris John, by the way, if you needed to know. But yes, Mojo was. It was just so. I mean,
such the favorite of people in Fayetteville.
Oh yeah, they loved him. Apparently, loved his girlfriend too.
Whoa.
No, not like that. Sorry, that's where it all started. Apparently,
so his girlfriend was hanging out on the berm in left field, and
no, she.
What do they call that area in Arkansas?
The hog pen.
The hog pen.
Apparently, she went into the bathroom and she was getting the business all as she was going into the bathroom from fans.
So she's probably wearing like a Nebraska baseball jersey.
She probably had Mojo's other jersey on.
So
no way to refer to him as Haggy. It was always Mojo too. That's when you know you've got a name. They just refer to your first name.
So they heckled his girlfriend going into the bathroom.
Yeah.
And then they took it out on her boyfriend?
Yeah, apparently. Well, because remember...
But Mojo was great. He played to the crowd in Fayetteville.
Well, remember how apparently it all started now. If this did indeed happen, now I've heard conflicting reports on this, that he supposedly flipped the bird to the hog pen.
Would it surprise you?
No.
Mojo?
If it did happen, that was why his girlfriend was taking a lot of crap from people there.
Good on him for standing up for his girlfriend.
I agree.
I hope they are still.
I do too.
with each other. Maybe now they're married. He's been out of college for a couple years.
I'll go into the Lions' Den to fight for you.
Mojo was at Nebraska for 7-8 years.
Yeah. Yes, he was.
Mojo is the only guy that played for Mike Anderson, Darren Erstad, and Will Bolt.
I think he played for Sanders, too.
Did he skip over Van Horn?
I think he skipped. He wasn't around for Van Horn. I think that was his medical redshirt years. Yeah, that's good. That's a good call, though, the Mojo. Mojo Haggy was probably the best one. But, man, Klinkenbeard, that's pretty awesome.
Cordell
Klinkenbeard.
That is a great name. I hope he has a wonderful career at Nebraska.
I hear it in Bob
Remember
Shepard's
when Key and
voice.
Peele used to do the names of, they would basically run through like they do on Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, and you would always get the weird names from Key and Peele when they would do that bit. Cordell Klinkenbeard sounds like one of those names. It sounds like a made up name. It's a great name though, and hey, welcome to Husker baseball because that'll be fun.
Hey, why doesn't UCLA football move the needle anymore?
They're not very good.
Yeah.
Remember when they were playing Nebraska all the time in the 90s and the 80s and the 90s, and it was a big deal?
Yep.
And they were ranked, and Terry Donahue was the head coach.
Yep.
And then
Bob Toledo had a good run with them.
The first 2 years, Bob Toledo won 10 games, if I remember. 1 year they finished, God, did they get as high as number 2?
Yes.
So then it started the path of interesting hires from Carl Durrell to Rick Neuheisel to Jim Mora to Chip
Junior
Kelly, and now Deshaun Foster.
Mm-hmm.
Once beat Texas
But
66-3.
UCLA football used to move the needle.
Yep.
UCLA football
It was a cool thing.
Has not finished the year ranked since Chip Kelly's year in 22, which I thought he had turned the corner. They won 9 games.
Mm-hmm.
They got as high as 21. I thought, here they go, because they'd went through that stretch. At the end of Mora, it was kind of like the Sahara. And then Chip went 3-4-3, won 8. And then in 2022, they won 9.
Yeah.
And they were recruiting fairly well. So UCLA rolls into Lincoln. They're 2-5. They're 1-4 in the conference. And
last time they were here, they're ranked.
They don't move the needle anymore.
No.
But I say that with, did UCLA ever be a part of college football? Has UCLA ever been maybe the stretch in the late 80s where they were a top 5 team?
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, is UCLA one of those football programs that you're like, oh, yeah, they're good. But then you go, wait a minute. When was the last time they were good?
Yeah.
First weekend of December 1998 at the Orange.
Because Terry Donahue has not been the coach since 1995, but they did have a stretch where from 84 to 89, and it was cool because Nebraska and UCLA were playing a lot in the non-con. They got as high as 5th. Let's see, 4th, 3rd, 5th, 9th. That's 86 through 89.
Well, and I think of, okay, so again, I go back to the last time they were at Memorial Stadium, which would have been 13, that they were a top 20 team. But remember, they had Anthony Barr.
Mm-hmm.
They had Brett Hundley.
A bunch of NFL dudes.
Yep. Shaq Evans. So they had some players. And so even then, I always felt that UCLA, if they were one of those teams that if they ever even cracked the top 25 and they were hanging around the top 25 for the majority of the season, there was always a cool factor to them. Maybe it's the LA thing, but by that point, like in 2013, they were secondary to USC. You always figured if they got some type of NFL talent, it was usually some runoff from USC because they weren't winning recruiting battles in the LA area as much as USC was. But to a lesser degree, actually maybe to a similar degree now, that anytime there was a number put next to them, a lot like Nebraska, that you would pay attention, like your casual football fan would all of a sudden turn their head and be like, oh, okay, yeah, because, especially people our age, because we remember when UCLA was actually the better Los Angeles, more so than USC was. Like USC, we kind of looked at them as we look at UCLA now as, oh, yeah, the other LA school, even though they had O.J. Simpson, Marcus Allen, and you had some great, but those were college football was UCLA. So if you're, again, around our age and you saw a number next to them, all of a sudden you quickly pay attention. So at least they have that going for them if they ever get to that spot. But yeah, right now, especially, you mentioned the hires, but was the last time, okay, so I mentioned 13, the last time that they were ranked.
In this matchup?
Yeah, it would be that one because they weren't in the Foster Farms Bowl.
Because both teams were, because Nebraska had just gotten, Nebraska was in the top 25. They were 23rd.
Yeah.
And UCLA, I think, was 16th.
Yep, that sounds right.
But there was a stretch, 83, 84. Then they played in 87, 88. The Nebraska was either first or second in the country. Nebraska got beat out there in 88.
Mm-hmm.
UCLA was a top 5 team, but that was the game that UCLA got up 28-0 in the first half.
Yep.
That was a bad day at the office. Aikman threw an early touchdown pass to Charles Arbuckle. Aikman actually Aikman. Gosh, what is he like? Threw for 205. Steve Taylor had a bad day. Steve Taylor threw 3 picks.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Ball ran wild in that game. It was a bad, but Nebraska was behind 28-0 and just couldn't come back. But yeah, that stretch, that was great for college football is because you had a team from the Big 8 playing a team from the old Pac-10, and it was a great uniform game, and there were a bunch of NFL dudes on the field. Now, they've only played, they finished the home and home in 12-13.
Yep.
The game,
Nebraska went 0-2 in that stretch.
Well, the game in 2012 is, Nebraska had misplays. That game had so many momentum swings.
Oh, yeah.
In the game in 2012.
Taylor has a huge run out there. It was like an 85-yard run that he had at the Rose Bowl?
92, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That was the end of the first quarter.
Yep.
Yeah. Gus went nuts.
That was a Gus-gasm.
But Hundley tore apart Nebraska's secondary.
Yep.
Amir was great that day, but what did Franklin run for? Franklin had at least 2 bills for UCLA.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, they had like 600. They had like 650 yards of offense in the game in 2012.
Yeah.
And then in 2013, that was the whole controversy of, Nebraska's wearing the uniforms. Do we have a toe injury?
Mm-hmm.
Just what are we doing here?
Well, and that was another game too, where I first started to consider the time zone issue. Because remember, that was an 11 a.m. game. And Nebraska was wearing the black tops. 11 a.m. game. Nebraska got out to a pretty decent lead at halftime, and all of a sudden,
they were up 21-10 at the break.
Yeah, second half, UCLA just turns it on, and it was like, oh,
yeah. Hundley threw 3 touchdown passes in that third quarter. They put up a 28 spot, and the game was over.
Yep.
Man, I'm looking through these. This would be a good experiment for somebody. If you go back through the history, and there isn't a long history of Nebraska and UCLA playing, because this will only be the 14th game. Man, there are some dudes that played in this game. I was just looking at the box score from 13.
Mm-hmm.
The Texans' place kicker was UCLA's place kicker.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah. I see, and I'm thinking of...
There's a lot of NFL guys that have
seen.
played in the UCLA-Nebraska series.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember the Foster Farms Bowl. Didn't they get out to a good start that season? And then they kind of petered out and sort of fell back into the Foster Farms Bowl, I think. I would throw this back at the history between the two teams too of watching it. So I went to one. I'm trying to remember what year it was. It'd been one game at Memorial Stadium when they played UCLA. One of the cool things I remember growing up when Nebraska played UCLA is because Big 8, a lot of similar offenses. So you'd see a lot of running teams, a little bit more option. That was the one time you'd see a team that's just freaking airing it out like 40 times. And it was kind of fun to watch. And it was cool to see Nebraska could defend it for the most part, but you would see the occasional big play. That was just weird for a young up-and-coming fan to see, oh, is this just how football's played? And then all of a sudden you see a team that just airs it out like that, and you're kind of more used to that on Sunday. That's what I loved about when Nebraska played UCLA.
Nate Gary got thrown out of that bowl game.
On a great tackle. Yes. Form tackle. Perfect tackle.
That was a weird... Like, all right, there's something happening here because Nebraska was down 21-7 and they ran the heck out of the ball in that game. And then Tommy was pretty good.
Yeah, Tommy had a good game.
Yeah, there's a lot of NFL dudes that have played in this series. Here is back to our discussion about crazy
8-4
names.
that year. So 8-5 to finish. Yeah.
Well, look at Nebraska's record that year.
Yep. Thank goodness they were smart.
Yes. Here is Eric. Good morning, Eric.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, you'll have to excuse me for being a little late on this.
You're fine.
From the stream. So, UCLA kind of made me think about J.J. Stokes and Danny Farmer back in the day when they came here. But when I think about UCLA, I think about the coming out party with Edgar and James when he had his monster game against them. But
right,
you want
that was at the Orange Bowl.
you want a good name. I'm not going to say it on air, but look it up. It's Edgar and James' daughter. I believe she plays for Cincinnati. I'll let you guys look that one up, or people on.
Yes,
they got their phones, but yeah,
I do know that one.
That's a good one. I just can't believe that one. But all right, have a good one.
Thanks, Eric. Couple of people have reminded me about the game out at the Rose Bowl in '88. Is Dana Brinson got crushed by Matt Darby in that game.
Former Buffalo Bills great.
I'm on YouTube. That might have been one of the hardest hits in the history of college football when Dana Brinson got drilled.
Was a dude too.
So here's a good question for you.
Dude.
Have two of the hardest hits in the history of college football occurred at the Rose Bowl and against Nebraska? Matt Darby on Dana Brinson. And, and Jonathan Vilma on Ben Zychek.
I do wonder if Ben Zychek still, like in the middle of the night, just wakes up and just like, ah!
I'm trying to look at this. Dana Brinson got crushed in this game.
How do you say that, by the way? Anyway.
Would Matt Darby have been ejected in today's college football? No. So his head crushes the left shoulder of Dana Brinson. Damn.
Yeah, look at this one now.
Oh, it is. Holy cow. And there was another hit that Darby had in that game as well.
I'm watching.
I got to turn up the sound. I got to hear the sound. I got to hear the sound.
Yeah, see, I think it's all just shoulder.
Yeah,
I think it's chest area. Yeah.
Legal hit. All right, 7:25. Matt Buttermore, head volleyball coach at Omaha, coming up in the next hour. But back to UCLA. Think about this, because there's Minnesota, there's USC, UCLA. People forget, but Deshaun Foster will remind you, we're in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm, sure.
Then there is Miami. How difficult it is to be successful in college football in a major city. That also could factor in because there's a lot of things to do in LA.
Yep.
A lot of things to do. A lot of things to do in Miami. A lot of things to do in Minneapolis.
Mm-hmm.
But can a program in college football be successful year after year after year in a major city? I've always thought about this. And, Miami was a kind of a little outlier. USC has had their moments. But think about like major college programs that are in major cities that have other interests, in college football and college athletics is not number one. Can you be successful year after year after year? All right, take a break, come back. There's Jimmy, Nick. I'm Gary. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
And this week's Zone Deal is to Le Voltaire. Le Voltaire, locally owned French restaurant serving the Omaha community for 22 years. It's unpretentious down-home cooking, serving classic French dishes, handcrafted cocktails, and more. With this week's deal, get two $25 vouchers, a $50 value for only $25. On sale this Friday, November 1st at 9 a.m.
All right, so you never know who's listening, right?
All right.
This discussion about the hit in the 88 game at the Rose Bowl between UCLA and Nebraska, where Matt Darby hit Dana Brinson. Brian writes in, he goes, ironically, I was at the game at the Rose Bowl. We were behind the Nebraska bench, just off to the left of the Nebraska bench, about 45 rows up.
Mm-hmm.
When the hit happened, you could actually hear the hit where I was sitting. Brinson goes down. He goes, if I recall, he had his back turned. He had his head turned back to the Nebraska quarterback, Steve Taylor, waiting for the pass, and Darby came up and unloaded on him. I heard the hit, and he goes, I hope I never hear a hit like that again. He said the Rose Bowl became really, really eerie. He goes, what I can remember is that there was a hush over the crowd because Dana Brinson was unconscious. Then he goes, you could tell that he was groggy. He got up and walked off the field, if I remember correctly. One of Dana's teammates said he was standing on the sidelines and Dana's mouthpiece flew all the way to the Nebraska sidelines. After that, Dana Brinson wore a neck roll.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
But Brian goes on to say, he goes, it was really, really weird because the stadium, which had been rocking with UCLA up 28-0, because it happened 28-0 at the time. He said it was completely quiet. People thought around him that Dana Brinson had died on the field on that hit by Darby in 88. Brian, thanks for sharing that.
You watched that thing. We just pulled it up right before we went to break in our last segment too. And the question is, okay, would that hit stand? Would that play stand? And it would, but it definitely would have been reviewed. That thing was vicious. And then we were talking about the Vilma Zijak and the one that you saw on that little like toss reverse. It's not as much as the Brinson one on the impact. It's just the impact and then driving into the ground that Vilma does and jarring the ball loose, which always adds a little element to it as well. That is still one of the most ferocious hits that I've seen in college football. Heck, at any level. Just
This is a different hit, not the one on Crouch later in the game, right?
No.
Because I remember
this is on Ben Zijak. This was basically, it was kind of like an end around toss play. And all of a sudden, Vilma tracks him and just basically engages, sticks him, but also lifts him up off the ground. And he's down. It's a pretty brutal hit.
Now, there's another part of UCLA. Remember when you could name at least one player on UCLA's roster?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
How many people do you think could name one player on UCLA's roster today?
Not a lot. I don't think there's a lot of people. Now, if you're listening to some of the press conferences and hear about Ethan Garbers, then there you go.
And I know him from the video game.
Here is Kevin. Good morning, Kevin. Welcome to the show.
Hey, morning, guys. I appreciate you, and thank you for giving me one name of a UCLA player, Ethan Garber.
Yep, there you go. Quarterback.
Appreciate you. Oh, that's the quarterback. All right.
Yep. Everybody knows the quarterback.
And once again, I appreciate you guys. But so, we went into Ohio State last weekend. We all think that we're going to be able to beat UCLA now. I don't know if we would have been able to say that 2 weeks ago. What do you think about the same situation, though, like just reversed? Just want to hear your thoughts on it.
Same situation, reverse. How do you mean?
As in, we went into Ohio State, into a hostile territory.
Oh, you're talking about UCLA playing the role of what Nebraska played last week.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the roles are reversed in that way where, hey, we think we got this in the bag. And it's not like we're looking forward to the next game. I believe it was USC. I just didn't know if you guys had any opinions on that.
Yeah. No, Kevin, I hear you. I think it's interesting because of what what UCLA is coming off of in that game against Rutgers, then going into the bye week, very similar to Nebraska, as they maybe not as an offensively explosive game as the Rutgers-UCLA game, but Nebraska wins more of a defensive game. They go into a bye week, and then they just get clocked by Indiana. I don't put a lot of stock into maybe the comparisons of the two. I think what we needed to see last week for Nebraska is exactly what you wanted to see. But as far as them putting the cart before the horse, so to speak, this is where I think you do learn your lessons from a year ago. And I think it was Ty Robinson who said this yesterday. And I hope he speaks for the entire team, where you're not even looking at the record of this team. You're looking at the individual. You're looking at what they do very well and how you are going to defend that and how you're going to go about that. And I know that can be cliche, but for Nebraska to be in the right mindset to get to bowl eligibility, to win this game, that's exactly how you have to go after it. They understand what's at stake, and that's not going to be lost on anybody. Even Dylan kind of talked about how he was surprised it had been that long, but if they are all following the same type of mindset.
Isn't that crazy that we have recited 2016 so many times on this radio station, but that, like, for a kid that just got here, and I still call him a kid, that's not like you have to be aware of that. He hasn't been in a bowl game for a while, but probably he maybe walked away and went, 2016.
I know. That's what I was.
2016.
When he said that, when he actually brought it up,
guys haven't gotten
damn, 8 years.
Cool swag since 2016.
Right. You haven't got the gift suite.
The swag is cooler now too.
I know. Can you imagine what the gift suite looks like now?
I think we've talked about it already this week. Celebrate winning 6 and embrace it. Because if I'm a guy that goes through my entire career at Nebraska and doesn't go to a bowl game, are you in radio? I mean, seriously. I mean, is Jay Moore kind of an outlier of a guy who played on teams that weren't well thought of, that has made a career in media, or still gets talked about? Now, really Jay went on and played in the NFL, and but
damn good player too.
Like, think about that for a moment. Like, if you're a guy like Ty Robinson, and you've been here for a long time, to never go to a bowl game, never go to a bowl game when all you need is 6.
Right. It's not all
like you need is 6.
You need to be average. You need to have an average season, a 500 season. That's all anybody's asking.
0 trips. You turn in your equipment after Black Friday.
Yeah.
All right. You have your exit meeting. Never to go to a bowl game. Think about that.
For 8 years.
Just how that would sit with you. Like, there are guys before him that went through the program and didn't go to a bowl game. So that's why I don't think they're looking ahead. They don't get to be fans. We get to be fans. We get to media. We get to speculate about that. They have to go play the game, and they know that if they get beat by UCLA, that's egg on their face, and then they got to hear about it for 2 weeks before they go and play USC. And you're like, geez, rules now 0-7, become bowl eligible. That's why I think it's a big deal to get to 6 and celebrate it appropriately around here, but then go, hey, this is for a 19-year-old kid to go and look at the 36-year-old Ty Robinson and go, this is for you because you get to go to a bowl game.
Old man Ty.
I know the floor is lowered when we talk about just get to a bowl game.
Yeah.
But you got to start somewhere.
You do, absolutely.
Because if you want to sell me progress, you can't go another year without a bowl game.
Right.
Okay? When you're knocking on the door again. And I firmly believe they will be in a bowl game. It would be better to take care of it sooner than later.
Yes.
But just think about guys like the Giffords and the Robinsons. Guys they never been to a bowl game. Never been to a bowl game.
Yeah.
Ty Robinson been to the program for, I may be exaggerating, he's not 36, but he's never gone to 26. A bowl game. Yeah. Never gone to a bowl game.
The Pelinis recruited him.
Larger than life presences on this team and integral parts of this team that have never experienced that. It is. It's kind of mind-boggling to think about it too. And on Kevin's other point of UCLA's mindset coming in, UCLA ain't going to fear Nebraska. They're not coming into Lincoln and they're not thinking, no, nobody really has that mindset. And I think obviously they win a game that they outlast a Rutgers team. They put points on a Rutgers defense that is considered to be, at least at one point this season, one of the better defenses in the Big Ten. I think that has been debunked just a little bit now since, but this is a team that's feeling themselves a little bit. And hey, they still got a good chunk of the season left as well. Not saying that all of a sudden this is a team that's going to be a bowl game, but they're coming in with a little bit more swag than what they had, 2 weeks ago. And now they're seeing a break in their schedule. So they're going to be confident. There's no question they're going to be confident.
You're right. They played a tough schedule. I mean, They went across the country and beat Rutgers, and then they had a bye week.
Yep.
So they had a chance to. There are some things that they don't do very well that all of a sudden they're not going to change during a bye week.
Yeah.
But I don't. It comes down to. I look at it from this standpoint. I've been pretty solid on this. Nebraska is who they are. Okay, they're going to be very good defensively. The Indiana game was an outlier. They're going to be a little bit choppy offensively. I don't know if this game requires you to score 28, can Nebraska get to 28? But I don't think they're the Jekyll and Hyde team. I think for the last 4 games, their success will be more about the opponent they're playing because I think Nebraska will be the same exact team. And so that leads me into the world of 7-5.
Yeah.
So I think the Jekyll and the Hyde of Indiana to Ohio State was an outlier.
Mm-hmm.
I think the last 4 will be normal. That's just who Nebraska is. Granted, love to see an area make progress. I just don't have a lot of faith that one area of Nebraska's operation is going to make a big jump in the last month. I think they will still play football the way they play. They will be really good defensively. They will strangle UCLA on the ground. They'll create some turnovers. Nebraska won't turn it over. And if Nebraska doesn't shoot themselves in the foot, this still feels like a 24-14 type game.
Yeah, and you mentioned something last week about playing free and loose. They did that against Ohio State, especially the defense, and you saw the result of that. If Nebraska were to lose to UCLA this week, in my opinion, it's not going to be because they overlooked UCLA. First of all, what are you overlooking into a bye? You're not overlooking them, and you have enough to go off of last year where you had those opportunities. I think they're truly excited for this opportunity. If they get beat, it's either going to come down to a couple of things. Now, from the physical standpoint, the execution, which goes without saying, and things just looking clunky, and UCLA is able to get a couple breaks. But the other part about it is the one thing that this is why I think it's so important for this to happen on Saturday, and we've talked about this, and that is just that mental burden of what we just went over. The guys that have never experienced that, and you have a golden opportunity to do so before your final bye week, and then go into the final stretch of games and some winnable games, already knowing that you have that part out of the way, and you can be a free and loose team. If they go about that this weekend, they win. There's no question about it. There's always going to be a little bit of that reluctance because have they overcome the mental hurdle when there's something on the line, a game on the line, that you can get bowl eligible or whatever the case might be. I still think they're in a really good place based off what happened last weekend and what happened last year of learning from the years past of how they prepare and how they go into that game. And the fact of people want to compare this a lot to the opportunity they had against Michigan State and East Lansing. I think it is a huge thing that this game is at home. Huge thing.
When we come back, there's another connection that UCLA has to Nebraska, and I think I'm going to sue Bleacher Report. That's all coming up next on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, since we haven't had any really good drama involving Nebraska football off the field around here, let's go back in the time machine. Tom writes into the Equitable Bank
annals
inbox.
of Nebraska history.
Goes, good morning, Gary. Am I remembering correctly that after the 13 UCLA game, the audio of Bo ripping the fan base after the 11 Ohio State game was leaked? Felt like that was the start of the end for Bo. Let's just go back to that. Tom is absolutely correct.
Yep.
So Nebraska collapses after leading at halftime against UCLA.
Oh, I remember being on the air when that Deadspin article came out.
Now, you also remember, there's another thing in line between the collapse against UCLA in 13 and the tape being released. Tommy Frazier calling for Bo's job.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bo responding to Tommy Frazier saying it feels like we don't need him.
Yep.
So then on that Monday afternoon, it is released. And then by Monday night, Bo has an apology acknowledging it was his voice on the tape, that he was just venting. And Eichhorst and Perlman then also said they were disappointed by Pelini's comments and they were reviewing the situation. So I went back. Bleacher Report had this in their story. The rant happened as Pelini was preparing for his post-game interview with Gary Sharp on the Husker Sports Network. Can I sue?
Yeah.
That's not me.
Yeah, that's defamation.
I do not want to be attached to the graphic that says, F you fans, F all of you, F them. Our crowd, what a bunch of effing, fair weather effing. They can all kiss my ass out the effing door because the day is effing coming now. We'll see what they can do when I'm effing gone. I'm so effing pissed off. People might think that's what you say after you blow the lead against UCLA.
They just won.
Yeah, no, they had just beaten Ohio State.
Great game.
Because fans had left a little bit early, but then came back.
So Tom is right. Do we miss those? Do we miss that drama?
I got to admit.
Do we miss an adult running, not having an adult running the football program like we have now?
When that dropped, I got to admit, and you've been through this many times, when something like that happens, as much as you don't want to have to talk about it, cover it, and would prefer the alternative of, yes, an adult-run organization or program, those moments, oh, they're memorable. And you get a little adrenaline. You're like, oh my gosh, how are we going to cover this? What do we, you're sifting through all of it. And you're like, what the hell just happened? And when you're hearing the actual voice itself, then immediately you're thinking, who leaked it? Why? When was this? Why now? I mean, there's so many questions about it too. So, I mean, that was a full week thing. And I mean, thank goodness they had a game coming up. Who'd they play? It wasn't even like a conference game they had after that.
It's South Dakota State.
Yeah, that's right. That at least that gave you a bit of a distraction for a moment. But I mean, that was hanging around for a while. Everyone was wondering how the fans would treat Bo at the South Dakota State game. Like I would not ever want to have that happen again. But my gosh, remembering that entire week.
Yeah, I do remember, though. I think the fans were like forgiving.
Yeah, they weren't because they were not that harsh
like,
at all.
Oh, that game, I stuck around.
Yes,
for the
that's
Ohio
what it was.
State game.
It was a lot of people trying to flex it. I was there the whole time, or I actually left for a little bit, but I came back.
We stayed.
So, for a moment here,
I had hockey that night.
This happened in 2013 when Deadspin was a thing.
Yep, that's true.
People forget.
Anybody surprised that we've never gotten the truth about how Deadspin acquired the audio tape? There has been so much behind-the-scenes speculation about things at the Husker Sports Network and who did what and who should take the fall for it and how they got it. And so many different characters have been mentioned.
Yep.
But nothing.
People that I know very well.
Nothing. Are we surprised that 11 years later, or maybe people are like, they're so past this because Bo's gone. He's been gone for a while.
Yeah.
But it's still kind of.
It was just so weird.
That's one of the things, like, you bring up to somebody outside of here, hey, what do you think of our head coach, Bo Pelini? They might bring up the tape. Yeah. That 11 years later, there has never been, like, X was the one that emailed the tape to Deadspin and then eventually lost his job in radio or something like that.
Right.
There was a radio personality in Lincoln that all of a sudden just disappeared because he was the fall guy for somebody that secretly sent the tape to Deadspin because they wanted Bo out, or that person at the university. You know, everything you heard, but nothing ever like on record. or somebody at Deadspin just telling a story 11 years later about, man, hey, that person that sent us the tape, that actually was blank.
Yeah, and this is why blank decided to release it then, as opposed to the night that it happened or the day after that Ohio State game in 11.
Why was that person in the subject line writing secret Bo Pelini audio?
Right.
And why did they send it after the collapse against UCLA on that Monday afternoon at 2:41 in the afternoon?
They thought it could be very damning.
Why did they reach out to Dom Cosentino, who
That's right.
Dom Cosentino did more interviews in the state of Nebraska.
Yeah. Was Dom Cosentino at the Yankee game last night? Sounds like a Yankee fan, in my opinion. It was.
How come Tom Chattel never fought Bo after comments that were made about Tom on the audio tape?
And Dirk, well, he did go head-to-head with Dirk. Although that audio was after the presser. So that was after the Dirk confrontation.
Mm-hmm.
Mentions Tom, mentions Dirk. God, I'm trying to remember all of the dialogue in that thing. I mean, there's a lot of things, though, that people still... You know why it's brought up to this day? Is when there's a bad loss or there's a season where Nebraska fails to go to a bowl, where people refer to that. Remember what Bo said during the audio about how things are going to be if he's out of here, if anybody can do it better? You know, again, I'm just paraphrasing. And people say, well, okay, I'm literally looking at the comments right now. Kobe just says, was Bo wrong, though?
It's like the beginning of Lean On Me when Morgan Freeman predicts it.
But I remember that the Dom Cosentino from Deadspin released all the email interaction with the person that sent him the tape.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote this email back to this person at 4:08 on that Monday, asking about the tape. And here's what then he said. About 35 minutes after we published Pelini's rant, we heard from a different source who asked us not to disclose his name. This second source, who made it clear he is not the same person as our original source, told us he had learned of a recording of Pelini's rant that may have been out there back on October 10th, 2011, just 2 days after it was recorded. The second source said he heard first about it from someone who had talked to someone within NRG Media.
Oh.
It's in the Deadspin article.
And your name is brought up in the not the Deadspin.
I was
not
just
the Deadspin.
I was just the one that Bo talked to after the game.
Yep.
And you weren't an NRG Media employee in 2011, so that gets you guys off the hook.
I was an employee of the Minnesota Twins.
Yeah.
I was a journal broadcast employee.
See what UCLA has done to us.
I was still in my 20s.
But there's another part. So
then.
the first game in Memorial Stadium they ever had Husker Vision, UCLA played here.
Yeah,
that's also true.
Keith Jackson,
mm-hmm.
Wayne Cook was the quarterback.
Good call.
And Swat on the sideline.
Let's go down to Swanee.
Joey says, I still think about who released that audio because it seemed like some folks were more upset real time about an audio of Bo going off on fickle fans than they were about Scott Frost allegedly having a drinking problem and being late for practice. Folks waited until after Frost was fired to tell their story on that, media included. Seems like we were prioritizing the wrong thing.
Okay.
UCLA has broken Nebraska football.
Yeah.
951-1620.
It just has.
That's the takeaway here. There's going to be a lot of hate on the field Saturday. Could get ugly.
I knew why it was released after the UCLA game, because that was by one person's vision that needed to end for Bo, and they thought that this would do it. But for 2 years to hold on to that thing too, it was one of the most random, and I just think
petty.
Petty. Very, very much worth questioning.
I respect
that part of it, and I'm glad people did immediately. They didn't just. There was the initial shock and awe of what was said, but then all of a sudden people really did get into the crux of who and why now? That's after the Ohio State game? Interesting time.
God, now our drama around here is about officials and going to a bowl game.
OCs
and horizontal passing
jokes.
Games.
And how great Sierra Wright will be when his football career is over.
You are right. Did you know? So as once he gets into the presser, he eases into it, and then he's smooth. But early on, he's knuckle cracking. He's a knuckle cracker.
Why doesn't Sierra Wright have a podcast?
That's a good question.
Make
Future
a little NIL
NRG
money. He'd be a fun podcast interviewing teammates or other athletes at Nebraska.
Agreed. He's got a good personality.
Coming up at the bottom of the hour, Matt Buttermore. Good personality, good volleyball program.
Mm-hmm.
Huge match tomorrow night at Baxter Arena against the lone unbeaten team in all of college volleyball. That is South Dakota State. The Jackrabbits will be here. It's Halloween trick-or-treating at Baxter. It should be a lot of fun. Matt will join us coming up at 8:30. Jay Mora as well, who was not involved in the leaked audio. Brandon Vogel, who wrote about the leaked audio. They all will come in the last hour.
Today's show, the remainder of the show that's the theme. The leaked audio.
I blame Tom's email. I blame actually UCLA.
And the fact that I blame Bleacher Report for putting your name in it. You need to have some speaks.
Could you make a case that UCLA football has been better than Nebraska since the audio tape was released?
Yeah, you could.
I'm just trying to build up something. Me and Mr. Hype Guy for Saturday. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, halfway home for the week. UCLA week, 2:30 on Saturday in Lincoln. The Bruins and the Huskers.
They've really built this thing up now all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah.
We put together pretty good all 22 of people that have played in the UCLA-Nebraska series.
Yeah.
Will people watch? People love the brand of Ohio State. They love the brand of Nebraska. Nearly 6 million people watch Nebraska and Ohio State play on Saturday, which just prepare yourself because Nebraska draws eyeballs. Play Ohio State a little bit more, Michigan a little bit more, Penn State a little bit more, maybe Oregon. But Ohio State is like you want TV ratings, you want a banger, you're going to put Ohio State on, which leads me to Ohio State, Penn State will do monster numbers this weekend. Even though I hate the 11 a.m. that it's pushed down our throat, I want more primetime. If you had to hire, you only have two choices. You only get to hire one.
Oh, God.
Who would you take? Who would you take? James Franklin or Ryan Day to be your head coach? You get a choice of either one. You have to pick. Would you take Ryan Day or James Franklin to run your football program?
If you would have asked me at the beginning of the year, I would have said Ryan Day. But James Franklin, the winning the top 10 game, if you will, the one thing hanging over him, or the big win that has kind of eluded them. Although James Franklin has had some success against Ohio State, not necessarily Ryan Day. I'm going to go with James Franklin. I feel like I know more about James Franklin. I feel like you kind of know what. Okay, maybe this is the better thing. I feel like you know what you're going to get from a floor standpoint, and I still think the ceiling. I know some people maybe in Penn State circles or even in college football circles would say James Franklin has hit his ceiling. This is what the best you're going to get is from James Franklin. In a college football playoff era of 12 teams, I'd take that. And I feel like he's established himself more within Penn State. I think there's still a lot of questions about Ryan Day, about ultimately, was he handed the keys to what Urban Meyer was able to restore and build? And now that it's got completely his imprint on it, despite the money that they spent in the transfer portal this year and having a hell of a hire on the offensive side in Chip Kelly, do people feel confident that Ohio State in the last couple of weeks is a team that is of the national championship caliber ilk? I know this is based on 1 year, but I think there's also been things with Ryan Day in the past of, now you can throw James Franklin in this too, but game management, things of that nature. I feel like it maybe just comes down to, I feel like I know more about James Franklin, what I can get out of him as opposed to Ryan Day.
I think Nebraska has messed up Ohio State. Look at the general chatter this week. Now, Nebraska is not getting much credit for playing well and shutting down a run game.
Nope, these are all Ohio State problems.
It kind of shows you people that kind of ignore Nebraska. I mean, that's fine. I mean, Nebraska's 5-3 and they're coming off a 56-7 loss. But all of the chatter this week about Ohio State is broken.
Yep.
Even their local media, and they have a lot of former players that have mics in front of them in Columbus and around the state of Ohio and are on national platforms as well. Is there something amiss with Ohio State, and Nebraska exposed it? Bobby Carpenter brought up a good point the other day I heard on a podcast, is if you go back and you look at the game, so I think Ohio State overlooked Nebraska. They had no respect for Nebraska. I don't think Ryan Day gives a F about Nebraska. And that's fine. That's on you. You almost got egg on your face, where if Nebraska would have won that game on Saturday, that is why you are getting fired, is because you lost to Nebraska in your house. For the first time in 45 games, you lost to an unranked team. They have absolutely they play with no emotion. Their sphincter at Ohio State is so tight that they are so afraid to make a mistake, coming off of Oregon, where they made a few mistakes in a game that they probably should have won or had the opportunity. When I want to say should have won, I'm going to say the opportunity to win. They have no emotion. They play like robots.
Yeah, that's a good call.
So Nebraska really messed with Ohio State, because I have found more national people looking closer at Ohio State this week than they normally would, maybe in the past, and probably Ryan Day is part of this.
Yeah.
They'll just go, you know what? Everybody is bound to have an off day. They just had an off day against Nebraska, but they won. It's more, man, what did Nebraska do to Ohio State?
Yeah. Well, because think about it, Gary. They came off of what still was a very good college football game against Oregon. You can excuse that loss and say, yeah, these two teams are going to meet again. It's going to be fine. They go into a bye week. And we were talking so much about the press conference last week, and it was a very, very odd press conference. The tone that you would have thought Ohio State got beat by 50 against Oregon. And
they disrespected the heck out of Nebraska. They didn't.
Not one question about Nebraska other than Dylan Raiola.
Yeah, they didn't care that Nebraska was playing there.
And then after the game, it wasn't the all, credit to Nebraska of making that game a game. It was, we should never be in a game like that. This was why I wanted for two of the last games. You brought it up against Indiana. I brought it up last week against Ohio State. What would Indiana do if they got uncomfortable in that game, if they had to play from behind? Well, we still have never found out, because Indiana, good on them. They just continue to play ahead and do their thing. I was really curious, and I thought it would be a very good, solid measuring stick of how Nebraska took that Indiana loss, if they could put some type of uncomfortability into Ohio State. And I think you bring up something interesting that I didn't even factor in when saying that, of the way that this team functions and goes about their business. There's questions about, does Chip Kelly into the offense trust Will Howard? So if you don't necessarily trust your quarterback, what does your offense necessarily think about your quarterback too? Doesn't that make you play a little bit more tight when it comes to things of maybe there is a very slim margin for error, even though you've got one of the best wide receivers and one of the best tandems in college football, but one of the best wide receivers in Jeremiah Smith in all of college football as well. And then you've got two stud running backs. How the hell could you not really trust this offense, even if the quarterback isn't as good as what you've had before? There's just something about making that team uncomfortable, and what you throw in there for a team that looks almost joyless. That to me is a reflection of the culture, the coaching staff, the head guy, because he's feeling it. He's getting those questions. And I was surprised with the questions he entertained with when asked about the outside noise, that he didn't like, we don't worry. Like, he actually acknowledged that, it's part of this. I just wonder if they take their cue from a guy who is a little itchy and scratchy right now with his position at Ohio State. Now you have a team that is uber talented, but is also taking their cues from their head coach right now.
What are there only probably two teams in this country going into this year that it's be in the championship game or bust? Ohio State and a little bit Georgia.
Yeah.
But Ohio State more than anybody else. So I still think look closer to what I think Ohio State is this weekend at State College. William writes in, James Franklin 1-9 against Ohio State. That's not success. Is James Franklin held to the same standards as Ryan Day? Can't beat his rivals.
Yeah.
Can't beat Ohio State. Can't beat Ohio State in the fourth quarter. That's been a big thing. Penn State's done a good job of making this a three-quarter game.
Yeah, okay.
And then in the fourth quarter is when Ohio State puts the hammer down, and they end up winning a close game. Now, along the way, there have been a lot of close losses to Ohio State, but it's because Ohio State is a much better team in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I brought up James Franklin has had some success against Ohio State. He had the one win, yes, but
But should they be held to the same standards? They have two of the marquee programs in college football.
I don't see why they shouldn't be. I really don't, because I think what Penn State's brand now took obviously a major hit for something completely outside of James Franklin's control. But I still think their brand, as far as what they do on a recruiting basis and being able to get guys to the NFL, is still very strong. And then having the type of resources that Penn State still has and always will have, you probably should. But I don't. And see, that's a great point, that part that the emailer brings up about the record against Ohio State. If you would have told me just the way that game has played out, I would have thought James Franklin maybe had another win or two in there. But he's right. This game usually is a three-quarter game because it's a good football game. But yes, Ohio State has gotten the better of them. I always feel like until Penn State shows that they're the alpha amongst the entire Big Ten, I subconsciously do hold them to a different standard. I don't hold them to an Ohio State standard. And I honestly think that that's how the decision makers in Penn State hold James Franklin to. I don't think they hold him to the same championship or bust, win the Big Ten or bust. You've got to get there at some point. I think they really like what they have with James Franklin and the fact that they're relevant every year. And now with this expanded playoff, now that could be a problem. If with the expanded college football playoff, very similar to the 4-team playoff. They're always on the outside looking in. They're right there. They're knocking on the door. They don't quite get in, and you do that for a couple of years. Then I think the heat really ramps up on James Franklin. But until that happens, I think people in State College are relatively happy with him.
Kellyanne writes in, Ryan Day. She would choose Ryan Day or James Franklin if you have a choice, but he can't dye his beard anymore. And if it's not up for that, we're stuck with James Franklin. Then I get to be his handler to educate him on how to handle a press conference, among other things.
Very fair
he
point.
Did apologize.
We'll say he should have done this the other day, but he realized his mistake, or someone said, hey, James, you can't do what you did to the media in State College. After they beat Wisconsin the other night, he did apologize, and he said, I did not handle that that way.
Yep.
So I'm good on that. Why couldn't you have done it a couple of days before?
Yeah.
Because it's not like that is something new to you.
Right.
Ohio State is wound so tight.
They are.
I mean, I think that's why Urban Meyer was so good at Ohio State, because Urban Meyer had come from a place that it was championship or bust at UF. And so you had to play to that standard that Spurrier had established there. So when you walk into a program, you already know that the folks wake up in the morning and their whole goal is to push you towards the national championship. And as a coach, you have to be built different so that your DNA matches what the program's DNA is. That's where Urban Meyer was driven a different way. I'm not saying Ryan Day is not.
That type of pressure didn't phase him.
No, but
his head started hurting.
Because he didn't listen to other people. He also beat his rival.
Yep.
It takes a special person, man, to have the mentality to coach at places where they've got such a passionate fan base that you have to understand what their expectations are and know that your expectations are higher, but you also have to be built so that you can get there. You can't just hire a guy and go, man, he played football here, won a national championship. He knows what the fans want. You got to be built the way that every single day you're thinking about how are we going to win the national championship? And there are only probably 3 or 4 programs in America that is the case, where the head coach, that's his job every day, and the fan base for 365, they think about how are we going to win the national championship? Look at that. Tom Osborne was built for when they turned the corner, and that was the expectation here.
And that's the fascinating thing about Ryan Day right now is he's a guy that was insulated from that when he was on staff. You always knew that eventually, well, maybe we didn't know that until Urban was having health issues, that he was eventually going to be the heir apparent. But you're insulated from a lot of that pressure because do their coordinators even make appearances every week? Talking to the I don't remember it last week.
I don't think so.
You know what? I think they do, because I think Jim Knowles talked after Oregon.
Okay. Well, if they do, it's not a regular thing, and so essentially you're tasked with your job, and your job is to formulate the offense to get the guys in the right position. And I think there are just certain coaches. I think Bo was like this too. When you can just coach and flat out coach and not have to manage the expectations, talk about the win or the loss, and certain questions that you just don't want to entertain, period, but that's your job. There's a lot of parts of that job that I think are a little bit more taxing on certain individuals, especially then when you get into a football environment like a Columbus, Ohio, or even like a Lincoln, Nebraska, where there's constant access. People want access. People want stories. People want to be able to engage with the coaching staff, that you are a big part of that. I think, to your point about this team wound so tight, I think it's as simple as because the head coach is wound so tight.
You think college football coaches should, from day one, coach with urgency? Like, when does the moment, because I don't want to hear about culture anymore, because I think the culture is good in Lincoln. And I know you talk about the process because you got to stay in the moment, but it's a result-based business. When do you think Matt Rule coaches with urgency and runs the program with urgency? And decisions that are made that impact on and off the field. Have we gotten to that point yet with Nebraska football?
Yeah, I think we're getting there. I think we're there. Yeah. And if this season didn't start the way, because what was being said by the head coach himself, where he really felt that, hey, this is a team that's going to win some games. This is a team that, maybe a little bit ahead of schedule than what they thought, at least based on preparation. And we've now known that's not necessary. But hey, there's still games left. They can be. They still can be. But at least at this point of the season, probably not saying this is a team that looks like they're ahead of schedule.
But don't you think they're still in the mode of, coaching for the process.
The process. But I also think
does it not change about urgency until the off season?
Oh yeah, year 3 will be balls to the wall.
No, I'm not even thinking about year 3. I'm thinking about this is one of the more important off seasons for Nebraska football.
Absolutely.
It doesn't start coaching and running a program with urgency until the season is over. So you spend the rest of November talking about the process still. That will lead to, you hope, the intended results.
Well,
then urgency of, all right, been here for 2 years.
Yep.
I know what I have. I know what I don't have. I got to do this, this, and this. And moves would lead me to believe that now we're coaching with a sense of urgency, that you have everything in place that you love. Now it's time to break through the ceiling.
Yeah, 100%. And when I say year 3, I should back that up and say the offseason going into year 3, without question.
You're 2.5, Nick.
Yes. 2.5 into year 3 is what it would be, yeah.
All right, a little bit later in the hour, we're going to talk some Omaha volleyball. They got a huge match tomorrow night. South Dakota State has not lost. They're the only unbeaten team in America. They're coming from Brookings, South Dakota. They are so happy to get out of Brookings and come to Omaha.
On Halloween, too.
Oh, my gosh.
Halloween in Brookings is just not the same.
But Matt Buttermore, head Mav, will join us coming up before the hour is over. Jay Moore, Brandon Vogel as well on Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone.
And Ghost, there it is. That's what you're hearing right now. They're coming to Omaha Sunday, August 3rd, 2025 at CHI Health Center, Omaha. Listen with unsportsmanlike conduct every afternoon this week. To win them before you can buy them, tickets go on sale Friday, November 1st. More details at 1620thezone.com.
All right, kind of cool here. Curtis, we'll let him get into his car so he can hear us. So our winner this week of the 1620 The Zone Pick'em, week number 7, Curtis went 10 for 10. He said he got in right away. He's part of the VIP club, which got him on the tiebreaker if that was needed. So he just came in and he picked up his check. We took a picture with him, talked to him. He works at LinkedIn.
Yes.
So for everybody that is listening that works at LinkedIn, give some love to Curtis because Curtis is smarter than you when it comes to picking 10 NFL and college football games.
Also, give me a free month of premium. Mine just expired.
And if you need some games to bet on this weekend, Curtis, you have a person in your office that can pick them very well. So make yourself some money off of the back of Curtis.
Plus, LinkedIn used to be over on 90th, kind of an older building, but really cool inside. We delivered lunch there one time. Now they're out on Pacific, like out by Boys Town.
Yeah, 132nd.
That place looks awesome.
Yeah.
And it blows people away that like LinkedIn has an office in Omaha, like a large office. But he was just telling us, so you can see, because I walked around the complex there. I'm a big fan of Chard.
Chard is good.
They have on the lower level is where they have, I guess you'd call it their cafeteria. And Curtis just said at LinkedIn they have chefs that come in and cook lunch.
Whoa.
Yeah, we got the invite to go to lunch there too. So now we're just going to think, hey, let's do a show from there. Then we'll have lunch afterwards.
The
we'll
new
have the
Friday
chefs take care
show?
of us. We'll be all about LinkedIn. But Curtis, awesome stuff, by the way. I'm glad that he introduced himself to us too. That's awesome.
He said he didn't want to take the money and run. I'm like, I would better off. I would deposit that thing right away.
I know, exactly.
It's like when I used to get paid when I was working for the Wheeling Nailers in the ECHL.
Yeah.
You had no idea. Like 1 week they'd pay you in cash, and the next week they'd pay you like with a check.
Oh, Gary, I did indoor football. I know how that goes. Sometimes your check doesn't clear.
Sometimes you're paid in beer in the game.
I was wild, man. The first week I got paid working there as the broadcaster and PR guy, I just got an envelope full of cash. No taxes, nothing.
It's like Alvin Mack.
Did they literally give it to you under the table?
Like the owner, Rob Brooks, came up and he just put it on my desk and he goes, "Here you go." And I was like, he goes, "Yeah, we're not doing checks this week." I was like, "Really?"
For a radio station.
So I got paid. I got paid in cash.
It was like from the concession stand.
That's why. Rest in peace, Jerry Gray. When we do all those Husker shows, loved it because Jerry just paid cash.
Yep.
No taxes. Nobody. Hopefully that it passed the statute of limitations.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, they hand me an envelope full of cash. Then the next week, it was a check where things were taken out.
Yeah.
The equipment manager, he came because the team office was across the street from the arena, and the equipment manager came over to pick up his check because we got paid on the same schedule as the players.
Okay.
And they didn't have to pay the players like the Penguins were paying the players. But everybody was on, the players got paid every week. We got paid every week. The second week I was there, they paid with a check. West Banco is a monster West Virginia bank based in Wheeling. Billy got the check. Billy Higgins, I think he's up with the Penguins now. He took the check, immediately went across the street to cash it.
Yeah.
I had to do that once too.
Yeah, I would too.
And he ran.
Yeah.
And he wasn't making a lot of money. And I'm like, and I asked our community relations director, her name was Annie Cutler. I said, "What's that all about?" She goes, "Oh, you'll learn."
Yep.
And I was
Did
like,
you start running then?
Hey,
yeah.
I thought everything was above board. I've always worked for like normal places. No, professional hockey in the minors, not normal.
No, not, and it's almost the exact same experience I had with the Omaha Beef when they were owned many owners ago, where there was one time, I can't, Severe would have to confirm. I can't remember if he had a check also not clear, but it did become the point where we do the exact same thing as that trainer did. We would go immediately and we'd cash it before they had a chance for that to sit in your account for a day or two. And then the funds are not there. So they have to take it back out. But the very last game I ever did, they refused to even give us a check until the Omaha Beef turned in their equipment. I said, that has nothing to do with me. I did my responsibilities. I have no control over whether the damn equipment is turned in or not.
So
this isn't the radio equipment. That was right here in this station. I I turned in our radio equipment where it needs to be. The football equipment, that's a you deal. Oh, I was pissed. So myself and another guy that was doing some games with me at the time, wasn't severe. We were prepared to drive down to Sioux City because the majority owner was working out there, and he was the minority owner for the Bandits.
You're going to confront him?
We're going to go to his office and just refuse to leave until he paid us. And as we were literally hours away from getting ready to head out to Sioux City, we had a phone call, and there was a check in the mail. He said, okay, we'll give it 2 days. If it's not there, we're going to see legal action. We're seeking legal action. And it did show up. But yeah, it was ridiculous. It was some of the most, the hoops you had to go through to wonder if the money that, we were talking about this off the air the other day of the bus trips, like 16-hour bus trips to Billings, Montana and things like that. Like, come on. It wasn't like we were making a lot of money, but I was also a young person. Every little dollar, it counted.
It still counts.
I wonder how much money the Omaha Nighthawks owed in this city.
Oh, my gosh.
They owed me $1,500.
I got to do a story on that.
Because the players were staying at the DoubleTree downtown.
And they never got paid.
Yep. I wonder what the bill was that they left when they bolted, because they shut down on a Tuesday and they were gone.
Yeah.
Everybody's phone was off. Like, you're trying to get answers.
Yeah.
I wonder what their bill. I wonder what their bill was that they left in the city of Omaha.
Yeah, collectively between talent and
because they had to pay players too.
Yep, players that I'm sure have not been completely made whole. Also, yeah, you're right. Like the establishments, the hotels, the housing. I'm sure a fraction of that has been paid, if even that.
Oh, I doubt any.
Yeah.
I doubt they just bolted.
And I wonder they're probably still trying to collect to this very day. What was the guy's name? Michael is like, he actually partnered. It was funny. He was doing stuff with Nevin Shapiro before Shapiro spent some time away.
Wow, this gets better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He was partners with old Nevin Shapiro, the great Ponzi schemer of Miami. Yeah. That
makes you appreciate some of the, I guess you'd call them minor league franchises, like the Stability, the Storm Chasers in Union, Omaha.
Yeah.
And the Supernovas. Like, they pay their bills. They're not fly by the night.
Mm-hmm.
I still think some form of football would work in this town.
I do too. It just has to be ran the right way. And you can't have these ridiculous expectations. Like that guy, they were making all kinds of promises that they knew financially they couldn't fulfill, but they wanted to get it on the ground and rolling, and hopefully that the support and there'd be all kinds of money coming in. Never did. It was too bad because there was some good talent. There was like some names.
Yeah. Joe says, I'm sure Nelly got paid by the Nighthawks at least.
Must be the money.
That's right. I forgot about that.
That was a crazy stretch at the beginning of Nighthawks football in this town.
Yeah.
They're playing at Rosenblatt.
Nelly's
They have all these names. Crouch is playing them on green.
Jeff Garcia.
I mean, you're like Maurice Claret.
Yep.
What a wild time.
Yeah.
And it was packed. It was like a party at Rosenblatt to watch minor league football.
Did you ever see Youngstown Boys, the 30 for 30?
Yeah.
It's basically the Maurice Claret one, but also with Jim Tressel.
Right.
But they're towards the end.
They're here?
Yeah, they towards the end of the actual 30 for 30, they show Claret going through the tunnel to Rosenblatt as he's walking on the field. So like that's one of the lasting things of the Maurice Claret story is his time in Omaha. By the way, speaking of critics on the Ohio State football program, Claret's been hot.
Yeah,
yeah,
as he should be.
He has an opinion or two about Ohio State football these days in Ryan Day. But yeah, it was really cool because of the names. But I remember listening to the commissioner talk. At one point, he said the Omaha Nighthawks were the greatest sports success story in all of sports that year. Like he said things, you're just like, what? And you could tell, very sleazy used car salesman type of guy. And I feel bad for like people like you and everybody who at some point did work for them and for the Omaha Nighthawks, because all you had to do was listen to the guy think, I may or may not get the money that they promised me.
We got a trip to Sacramento and Las Vegas in my last year. That was kind of fun.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Matt Buttermore, head volleyball coach at Omaha, will join us. Coming up at the top of the hour, we'll dive into what happened at Ohio State and what should happen on Saturday against UCLA. Nebraska just feels like they need a 35-point burger, and they win 35-14. There's no doubt. Everybody feels good, bowl eligible. Just feels like Nebraska needs that game.
Yep.
But would you take like a 24-14, which would still be 2 scores?
Yep.
I think it needs like a 35 burger. A breakout, big points, defense just mauls UCLA. feel good. 6 o'clock, you get to win number 6. We'll get into that with Jay Moore and Brandon Vogel in the last hour. Talk a big event coming up tomorrow night at Baxter Arena, a big volleyball match in a volleyball state. Matt Buttermore of Omaha joins us next. All right, coming up tomorrow night at Baxter Arena. It's pretty cool. Before we get to the main event, there will be trick-or-treating on the concourse from 6 to 7 with the hockey team. Now, you can't just show up and trick-or-treat. You got to buy a ticket because it's going to be well worth it, because tomorrow night at Baxter Arena, the 9-1 in the Summit League Omaha Mavericks take on the lone unbeaten team in all of college volleyball, South Dakota State. The head coach of the Mavs, who is on a heater right now with his program, is Matt Buttermore. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. How's it going?
Good. How's it going with you? I mean, you've won 6 straight matches, back home tomorrow night, an opportunity to knock off South Dakota State. Where are you at right now as you gear up for the end of the regular season and, of course, the conference tournament to try and get back into the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, we had a stretch there. We had 5 matches in 9 days, so that was a tough stretch. We finished the last 2 in North Dakota, so we capped it off with a long bus trip. But it's a hard-working team. We've been pushing them pretty hard, even through this stretch, and you gain a lot of confidence when you have a hard-working team. You know you're going to get a certain kind of performance every night, and so we're in a good spot.
Last time you guys played South Dakota State on the road, just from a matchup standpoint, I'm sure that's what people are interested on with this one tomorrow night is what do you learn from that match, and overall, how do you match up with the Jackrabbits?
We have some similarities. We're both good blocking teams. We're definitely a more balanced team. They have, one player that exceeded 50% of their swings in their outside. So that's a big difference in the two teams. But physically, we're both pretty big at the net, and play good defense. We're the top 2 defensive teams in the conference. So you'll see a battle. Last time we generated some opportunities and we just never took advantage of them. So it was a lack of execution. And when you're playing a good team at their place, you get a lack of execution, and you're gonna get beat. So that's what happened.
Hey, you've been around the sport for a long time, and now at Omaha for a bit. What your team did last year, making the NCAA tournament for the first time, and then having the last unbeaten Division I college volleyball program, done for the perception of the Summit League, in your opinion?
That's a good question. I think the league itself is much deeper this year. I think we were about middle of the pack RPI-wise coming out of the non-conference. And that's with us, frankly, having a disappointing non-conference. And so the rest of the league did a good job of winning the games they're supposed to win and winning some games maybe that people didn't think they were going to win. And so we got good coaches in the conference, got a lot of good talent, not even just here at Omaha, but a lot of the other schools have a lot of area kids as well. So if you love area volleyball, Baxter Arena is a good place to catch some of the kids you've seen in high school and club matches over the years.
And we've talked about this on the show before too, about just the state and how good volleyball is here, but also how competitive it is year-round sport. We see a lot of the athletes that not only flourish at the high school level, but at the club level too. When you look at now, not only Nebraska, Creighton, but also Omaha, showing that they're an NCAA tournament team and they have that type of program that can be that team. When it comes to recruiting, not only to the venue itself, but just to the program, for you, have you seen an increase in interest now just in the last couple of years, just because of your guys' ability to show that you are a legitimate NCAA tournament type program?
Yeah, I think we definitely get a few more emails, and particularly from out of state, more so than in-state. I think we get a little more interest coming from out of state. Oh, that's the team that played in that football stadium game, and that's they go, oh, they made the tournament.
Yeah.
Oh, they've been in the finals the last 4 years or whatever. So, and so I think that's where we see it in some of the responses we get out of state, and even in hiring too. When we were last time we were hiring Kyle, we had some pretty good applications we went through. So,
is that the phrase that is used? Oh, you're the team that played in that football stadium game?
For out of state kids, yes. Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah, for out of state kids, that's how they know us.
All right, so I got some questions here. So are you? Because I've seen you, and you are very laid back, but when a match starts, you have the appropriate intensity. Are you a guy that would rather be up and pacing back and forth, or most times you're sitting there nice and calm? And by the way, how can you do that during high-level matches?
I think it helps me not hurt my team, I guess is the best way to put it. I used to pace when I was younger, and long story short, we were putting this big thing on at Hastings College at the Grand Island Event Center, and I was just tired one day, and we ended up beating the defending national championship, and I was sitting down, so I just kept sitting down, and I realized me pacing back, I mean, I get angry at the refs, I'd get worked up about our players, and I don't think I was always helpful. Certainly helpful more than helpful. So, or hurtful more than helpful. So that's part of it. And I had an old athletic director, Jerry Schmuddy.
Yes.
He always said, practice was for the coaches and games were for the players. And I took that to heart. And I'm a different person in practice than maybe you see on the bench. So, I say all the hard things I need to say in practice, say the encouraging things that we need to say in practice, and really excited to see our players compete and see how well we did that week.
Coach, obviously the goal, once you said it, and you did it last year to get to the NCAA tournament, it's where you want to be again. When you look at this roster with still another month or so of regular season play, especially with that huge game tomorrow night, the huge match tomorrow night, what do you like about where you are? But where do you need to be to get right back to that spot that you were a year ago?
I like our opponent hitting percentage in conference. We're leading the conference in that. Our aces are going up. Our blocks per set, we're really touching a lot of balls at the net. And I don't think we've had a complete blocking match yet. So that's the other, we have a lot of things we're still working on. So I'm excited to continue. We only have about 20 practices left before the end of the year. So I'm excited to make the most of those 20 practices as we get going here. But really we have a lot of things we can still get better at. Transition offense, our serve receive has been really good the last couple of weeks. So we need to maintain that and kind of build on some of the other things.
This may or may not have come from somebody inside your volleyball program, but they would like me to ask you, is the success of this season based on the fact that when you guys were in Italy, you ran into Jimmy Fallon?
Oh, yeah, let's give all credit to Mr. Fallon.
Hey, what was that trip like for you, you and your family, and then your family that is the players that you coach?
It was great. It's just one of those things we're really thankful for. It was, I've never been there. It was special personally for me to be able to take, Laura and our girls there. And then, we have a lot of players that have never been overseas, really haven't traveled much outside of doing things for volleyball. So, it was a special experience for them. We had some, the number of times we'd have, that was a top 5 day for me, coach. And then the next day was like, I have another top 5 day, coach. And so just things like that, it made the hard work, fundraising for that thing and the generosity of our donors really worth it.
Obviously, tomorrow night we want to see the venue packed, and we're going to let our listeners know about a great ticket promotion for tomorrow night's match against undefeated South Dakota State. You've seen that building with the energy that it can provide. Obviously, we hope tomorrow night is the one that you'll answer for this next question. But up until tomorrow night, what's the best moments that you've experienced at Baxter Arena, and what that building can be like when you've been the head coach there?
That's a good question. Best moments. We've had some amazing crowds for South Dakota. I think last year when we beat South Dakota at home, we had just lost our conference opener on Thursday to Kansas City, we didn't know it at the time was going to end up winning the conference last year. But so we were feeling pretty disappointed and came out. We had a great crowd that Saturday. The girls responded, and we won in a kind of a dominating 4 sets against South Dakota, and the alumni were there, and that was a good memory, great memory. So,
disappointed.
Go ahead.
No, I disappointed that you did not mention the one time you let me do the PA was not one of your favorite moments.
Well,
I heard you were upset at me.
Well,
some things you forget about.
That's what I heard.
Short memory, right?
I may have embellished some.
That's why
things.
he's a good coach. Short memory. There you go.
Yeah. We do want you. So this is a team that, you go to the NCAA tournament last year and you were really, really good. Difficult non-conference schedule. You put it that way to prepare for the conference season. But you've had a nice stretch of some players that are big culture that have kind of grown with the program and have led this program to success and pass it down. What has been something like Shayla, for example, who has been in the program, or Kaylee, that have been here for a while, that have established what it means to be this level of Omaha volleyball? What have they meant to you in this program?
Oh man, you make me cry. We have, it's hard to imagine us passing a volleyball without Shayla on the court next year. She's been, all 4 years, she's been one of our primary passers. Even her freshman year when she was just playing a little bit of back row, she was one of our primary passers. And just their growth, Kaylee's, growth. Kaylee came back from injury last year. She's had, she started with the ACL in high school, and it's just been kind of a long road from her for her from there. And so there's just the strength and growth of everything on and off the court for those two, and a lot of our players. Who we become is more important than what we achieve. That's on the front page of our binder. That's what we tell our recruits and their families when they visit, and that's what we tell our players. Probably about every other week as a reminder. This is who do we want to be, and that's more important than how many aces we get or how many blocks we get.
I also want to mention McKenna Rook, who is from Millard North, who has been such a huge staple of your program as well.
Yeah, we have a list. Kenna. I can't remember coaching volleyball before Kenna. Really, she's been here forever, and she's had such an impact. It's going to be it'll be a tough senior night for me personally. I think it'll be fun, but we're nearing the end for some of these gals. So it's going to be a special night.
You think of opportunities like you have tomorrow night too for players like that, when you have a chance to put a dent not only into a rival's season there and have a big moment for your program, but also, like Gary had asked about, some of those players that have been foundational type players, that these moments are also a little bit even more special for them.
Yeah, for sure. These kinds of, they don't remember a lot of the matches, but a match like tomorrow night will be one that they remember for sure.
Hey,
and good.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I don't even know what I was going to say. Keep going.
No, you're fine. You got more important things to worry about. I appreciate your time as always. I'm a big fan. I hope there's a great crowd out there tomorrow night. And it's high level.
Buy one, get one. Come on out.
Yeah. You know what? And after you beat South Dakota State, come down to the floor and meet Matt.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of the promo.
Coach, are you buying the $2 beers tomorrow too?
If no comment, I guess. If I'm a little extra languid on the bench.
Hey, Matt, congratulations on the start so far. I know it's not done. It's time to the conference tournament, but a big one tomorrow night. Hope you have a big crowd. Finish up strong and then on to the conference tournament. Let's get back to the NCAA. And as always, I appreciate your time.
Absolutely appreciate it, guys.
That's Matt Buttermore, the head volleyball coach at Omaha. They're 9-1. South Dakota State, last unbeaten team in all of Division I volleyball. Tomorrow night at Baxter Arena against South Dakota State. Trick-or-treating on the concourse from 6 to 7. The hockey team will be there. Mm-hmm. You got to buy a game ticket. You can't just show up at the front gate and go, I want to trick-or-treat with the hockey team.
Yeah.
$2 beer and bottled soda while supplies last. But here's the deal. For our zone listeners, the buy one, get one offer, Nick.
Yes, omavs.com/thezonevb. Just use that promo code again, omavs.com/thezonevb, and you get buy one, get one for free tickets for tomorrow night. So they want a big old crowd, huge opportunity for the volleyball program.
What about a young crowd as well?
Oh, yeah, I guess big. How about a big crowd? Just a big crowd. All right, a big crowd. That'd be great. But as you mentioned, too, get a little rowdy tomorrow night. It doesn't have to just be for the kids there for trick-or-treating, but for the adults, have a $2 beer. Enjoy some really good volleyball.
Yankee fans.
Yeah, don't do that. But should be a great crowd. omavs.com again, /thezonevb to get buy one, get one for your tickets tomorrow night.
Hey, 2 great nights of college volleyball back-to-back. So you have that, and then the last unbeaten could go down in Omaha. And then the monster match in Madison on Friday night between it'll be a a top 10 matchup between Nebraska and Wisconsin. Everybody's favorite opposing coach.
I was just going to ask about the coach's face.
That's a huge match for Nebraska.
Yes, it
I
is.
wish it was on a Wednesday, but we'll take a Friday.
Yeah, Friday. Get you primed up for bowl eligibility day.
8 o'clock. And then Creighton is home this weekend as well. They have the Spook and Spike Boojay
Oh, what a
Bash.
great name. The Spook and Spike. Like that. Although I was told when trying to, the very first thing I ever did in play-by-play was College of St. Mary's volleyball.
Yeah.
And one of my old classmates from when she was at Millard South, Jessica Jesuits, now Jessica Day, she had told me, whatever you do, do not say Spike in the broadcast. I'm like, okay.
Really?
That's kill. Yeah. She said, just
call it a kill?
Yeah, it's a kill. Do not say Spike. Do not say Spike. Do not say Spike. And I've never forgotten that. Does JB do that?
Oh, I don't think
I'm pretty
he
sure he
does.
doesn't because he's a pro.
Really? I never thought
He's
about
a pro. That's why he doesn't.
Maybe that's why I've never been asked back to do the PA for volleyball. I think I might have said Spike.
Oh, yeah, it's a big no-no. That's a big stinking faux pas right there, buddy.
Great running back, too.
So is Spike a...
He was bred for football glory.
Is Spike a beach volleyball term?
I think so. But now I got to try to remember listening and watching the Olympic coverage. Did they say? I think they said Spike, yeah.
Okay, maybe it's a beach volleyball thing.
Be. We'll find out.
Probably will not be on my list to be calling beach volleyball anytime soon.
Be quite the thing, though. I mean, be outside, be on a beach. You think of a lot worse places to be. Like behind a backstop in a baseball field at New Jersey.
Hey, there you go, Rutgers. Do better.
It always comes back.
Jay Moore will join us next. We'll talk to him about why the defense was so good against Ohio State compared to the week before. And maybe Dr. Moore has some fixes for how to get the Nebraska offense into the end zone. Nebraska can get across the 40. They struggle in the red zone, but it's all about points. That's the month of November to me on offense is points.
Got a field goal.
Got to find a way to win points. I say, how many points is it going to take to win on Saturday? And if Nebraska has an off day on defense and they give up 14 or more, can Nebraska football win a game? The facts would tell you no under Matt Rule. But like common sense would be like, oh, yeah, they'd be fine.
Need 21 this
All
week.
right, Dr. Moore is coming up next. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley on 1620 The Zone. All right, time for our Wednesday chat. As we await the arrival of Dr. Jay Moore to figure out what's needs to be fixed with Nebraska, give you a cure. Are we just waiting on him?
Yeah, we're just waiting on him.
Okay.
All right. Do we know that he's trying to connect?
He's been sent the link.
Yeah.
I'll give the text again.
And
that
it's
I did
just
last
now
week.
click 9 o'clock. So
I'll just say, hey,
Yeah,
buddy.
well, we might be a little bit early. We'll ask him in the Halloween theme because people are wondering on the old interwebs, is Halloween overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated? It's become very, very much an adult holiday as well.
Yeah, so I heard Bishop's take on this of it's just a holiday for the kids. I would also, I believe it was Josh Peterson who did push back on that. I would too. I would push back. I feel like that is more, it's you can have your adult fun with it. You can also have your, but it's properly rated. I feel like adults get into it way more than kids these days.
Hey, are you in your kitchen table?
I'm in my home office this morning.
You're in the study?
Okay.
You're in the study.
I'm in the study.
Yeah. What do you got in the study?
Give us a tour.
Yeah. We want to crib this thing.
Yeah. Behind, got a Nebraska helmet, a 49ers helmet, some game balls. Let's see here. Let's grab one.
Yes.
Nice.
This is what the people want to see.
This is from, can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
27-20 Iowa State game. That was in 2005.
Okay.
October 1st. This is where we beat Iowa State in overtime. But probably one of my better games of my career. I had my only interception that game. I had like a couple sacks, a bunch of TFLs. It was a good game. But one of four game balls behind there. Some other stuff. I got stuff all over, jerseys and pictures, and I mean it's a good picture of the D-line group.
Oh no! Oh, yes, he was showing he disconnected. I think we caught Jay in post workout too. Seems a little out of breath.
Yeah, it must have been arm day. Jesus, he is jacked.
I know. Did he keep that on just the chest and arm area on purpose?
Fat fingers.
Oh, hey, there he is. There he is.
Fingers. But I was going to show you the line group. This was been in
nice
04 or 5. You know, John Blake. There's a young Sue in there.
A young
myself, Lee Keevan, Titus, Barry Cryer, Ola Deganduro, just kind of flexing on them. You know, having fun with it. But a lot of that stuff. A lot of good times.
Good. Let's start with defense. Your forte. Are we okay to say that the Indiana game was an outlier when we look at what Nebraska defensively is, especially based on what we saw on Saturday in Columbus?
I'd like to think so.
Come on, Jay.
Okay.
I'd like to think so. I think obviously Indiana's a really good football team. It's a really high-powered, tough offense. I think everybody they play this year is going to have a tough time defending that RPO system they have, and Signetti's a heck of a coach. But I do think, I think it's a multiple things that this team and the staff learned is you don't need to overcomplicate it. I think there was some overcomplication, but I also think it's weird overcomplicating, and it's the chicken or the egg. Are you overcomplicating it, or is your preparation off? Which is like, is your preparation too much because you overcomplicated it, or is your preparation not good enough because you tried to throw so much in there where you kind of forgot what you do really well?
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think it is an anomaly. I think you're seeing. I think I said this last week. I think guys have finally hit the point where like enough's enough on this defense, and I think you're seeing guys play better. I mean, Jamari Butler and MJ Sherman probably had their best games of their career on Saturday, which is a huge help. But I feel comfortable saying that this defense is even it's still hard for me to it's hard for me to get there just because of what happened just a couple weeks ago. But when you have a roster like they've played, $20 million or so, and the majority of that being on the offense, and you stoned. I mean, they had they executed 1 third down all game. 1 third down. 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 1 You can definitely hang your hat on that. And the best thing about it is, even though the results, you didn't get the win, you can take so much from that game, and you can look back on what did you do during that week of preparation that got you to perform how you performed, and you got to put that in your mental, in your mind, and say, okay, I'm going to rinse and repeat that, and just try to do that process a little better every time.
If you would have told me before Saturday's game that Nebraska would hold both Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson to under 100 yards and really limit that, I would have thought, okay, first of all, it's surprising, but there would be much, much better tackling. Obviously, assignment sound is one thing, but we've seen now, if you go back to the 20 games for this defense, the majority of those games Nebraska's tackled very well. Against Illinois, which happened to be a loss. Against Indiana, it was very bad. There were a couple misses this last Saturday, but not nearly at the level that we saw Indiana. Where do you ultimately chalk that up to? Is this more of what a team is put, the situations Nebraska is being put in, or is this as simple as the discipline, the technique, and dare I even say desire when it comes to all of that?
Yeah, I think desire is, there's always that. I said you got to come with bad intentions, and sometimes it's weird, and you play the game of football long enough, sometimes your mind is like, I don't want to hit anybody, right? I don't want to, and you have to overcome that every single week, because it's not a natural thing to do. And that's why I say you have to have bad intentions. You have to take your brain to go somewhere where that's not normal to go. And that's a battle you have to play with yourself every week, and that's a preparation thing. So I think that's always going to be an issue. And the good teams, the good players can go to those I always call them bad places, or like embrace the suck really quickly. They can flip that switch. But I also think simplifying things, getting your secondary in better coverages to play the run more efficiently, that's helped. I think you saw that on Saturday. Deshaun Singleton played much better. He's been a guy that's struggled coming up, making tackles in the secondary. And it's hard. I mean, if anyone, I'm never going to, it's tough. I mean, you're back there all by yourself, and you got 30 yards to try to tackle a guy. I mean, good luck, right? But just when you're putting your guys in better situations, and everyone's roles are a little more defined, which I think they were on Saturday. Everyone can play quicker and faster, not second guess yourself, and not try to play so perfect as well. But I think you always got to have that mentality of the desire, right? And you got to approach it every week, and you have to do it. It's not just like that switch can't be turned on Saturdays. That switch has to be turned on first thing Monday morning when you step on that field. Because if you don't do it in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it's definitely not going to happen on Saturday. So you have to take yourself to those places, and that's what the good ones do. It's crazy. Some people think the guys in the NFL, these Hall of Famers, Pro Bowls, they take it easy during Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday during the week. It isn't, man. Every play. I remember I got to the 49ers and I saw Bryant Young, BY practice. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, and this was my rookie year was his last year. Now, granted, he only practiced 2 days a week because he played a ton of football, but every single rep was a game rep. It was insane. So it just doesn't happen, right? You have the preparation is the most important part in anything, tackling, fundamental footballs. It's got to be addressed and taken care of, Monday through Friday. Otherwise, it just doesn't show up automatically in the games.
Jay Moore joining us. Let's talk about screens, because so many things have to go right to have it executed. I mean, it's really a beautiful play if it works out well, but Nebraska is boom or bust. And now we're hearing, the checks that were made. Maybe wide receivers didn't hear the check or realize that they were going to run a screen, so it looked discombobulated. But is this a bigger picture? And this can either be spun in a good way or a not so good way. Is it good or concerning that your freshman quarterback is checking in and out of these so often?
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with that. I love that they're giving the freedom to your quarterback to do that. And a lot of times that's you got, especially, and what they're referring to is in man situations. A lot of times you can get guys when they're in man-to-man situations on some of these plays. But it has to be, everyone has to be on the same page. So now it's okay, Dylan, we're giving you the right of way, the go ahead to make these checks. But if we can't trust our wide receivers to get them and the communication's on the same page, maybe we got to shelve it for a week or two until everyone's on the same page, or until I feel comfortable, Satterfield, Coach Rule, that it's where it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. I mean, you have to implement screens. You have to have some short to intermediate passing, because you want to run stuff off of that. I fully get it. But where I struggle with it is if your wide receivers have struggled since day one on the edge, and then the message or the communication is not correct or being understood the right way, then we got to kind of readdress and rethink how we're going about our process. And maybe we got to take a little more control of how things are being done so we can get my team, my offense, in the best situation to have success.
Mm-hmm.
So I think obviously it's got to get fixed. It's got to get cleaned up. I do think not having Ramir in the screen game, that was a part of why they struggled. He's so good in that area. But at times they ran it successfully, but it's just not what you want to see when you have multiple plays. It's passes, tackle behind the line of scrimmage, whether to a running back or a wide receiver. That's got to get cleaned up, because you got to have, essentially that's another extension of the run game. You're not going to have an RPO situation with Dylan Raiola. It's just, he's not going to run the football in his own read. So you have to have those type of play calls in there to keep defenses honest. But if it's not going to be done the right way and guys aren't going to be the same page, you got to take a little more control and say, hey, nope, that's not going to happen. Or check with me situations. You've seen it do it a few times. Teams kind of rush up there, look over the sideline. Hey, are they in the right coverage? Hey, run the play. If not, check. We're going to get out of it and do something different. But obviously you can't keep, banging your head against the wall and, expecting different results. That's got to get fixed, and it's got to get better here in November.
I want to get into what's at stake on Saturday, the state of mind this team is playing at home. You got a UCLA team that maybe their record doesn't necessarily indicate the type of challenge that they will present. But Jay, I want to throw the scenario at you. If Nebraska is in the right mindset, they positive bounce back, even though they lose to Ohio State, a lot of good things on the defensive side of it, that they're able to take care of business on Saturday. What that, in your opinion, having a bye week following that, and then having three winnable games, they're losable as well, but 3 opportunities after that. The difference between them getting that win on Saturday with those games remaining, as opposed to if they were to fall flat at home going into a bye and then having those 3 games. Your thoughts on just the state of mind for this team?
Yeah, I think it's obviously this game's so important. I never want to say, I hate saying it's a must win, but let's be honest, this is a must win game. I think it's your most winnable game out of these 4. And it's just going to put you, imagine getting this game and you get the 6th win, this monkey's finally off their back.
Mm-hmm.
Just being able to go, just exhale a little bit. It just frees you up a little more heading into USC, Wisconsin, and Iowa. Listen, I think UCLA's had a tough schedule. Nebraska, I think, should win by 2 touchdowns. But we've seen, this has been Jekyll and Hyde this year for this team. But UCLA can't run the football. Garbers is decent throwing the football, but they're -7 in the turnover category. They can't block anybody. They struggle I think Nebraska's able to get after them in the pass rush. So I think the defenses can have a heyday back there if they come with that same mentality that they had against Ohio State and build off of that offensively. Actually, UCLA is okay against, stopping the run, but they get diced up. I think they're allowing almost 275 yards to the air so far through 7 games. So there's obviously opportunity there. And I know Nebraska fans are probably like, oh, great, we're going to try to throw the ball a ton. But they're not good at stopping it. So yeah, it's a big one. It's an opportunity to take care of business and just get the ball rolling in the right direction. It seems like we've been on this path. At times it seems like it's going the right direction, then it gets completely blown off the map, and you kind of get it back going the right direction. And I know success isn't a straight line, right? It's ebbs and flows of it, but this is a big one. This is a big one for the psyche, for the fan base. That I like you mentioned, I don't want to, if you stub your toe and play sloppy and mistakes show up, maybe rain or whatever it is, knock on wood, that you lose and you go into a bye week, then you're at USC and they're coming off a bye week too. So you're just like, man, Nebraska had 5 wins heading into November last year and struggled as well. So this is an opportunity to get this thing where it needs to be. But I feel pretty comfortable at saying I feel like they learned the lesson against Indiana, and they're ready to turn the corner.
Hey, when you hear the phrase championship mindset, what do you think that means concerning Nebraska?
Kind of what I was just talking about before, preparation and just how you take care of yourself and take care of business Monday through Friday. Knowing that you can't play well, you can't win, have success on Saturday if it's not approached the same way Monday through Friday. I think we've heard this, and this is obviously you get into the philosophy of football or life, whatever it is, but it's approaching it every day the same way, and it's process driven. And I know it's hard because this is a very results driven business. I understand that, and we know that, but you have to show up with the same mentality every day and just have that focus to get better. Even if you got your butt kicked the week before, you didn't play well, you got to still be on the same page. When it's down, don't matter. I'm still coming with my same mentality, my same preparation, that same energy, and I'm going to work and I'm taking care of my business. And that's what I think it takes. And obviously the process hasn't been good, right? For a long time. And I think you get tied up in the emotions of everything, and I'm putting all this work in. This is, things aren't going my way. So, attitudes are down, and, you're feeling sorry for yourself, and, oh my gosh, this is really hard, and you can't think like that. It was exactly when those minds come in your head, you got to tell them kind of, shut the hell up, and I'm gonna go about my business. We always had a strength coach, Dave Kennedy at Nebraska, and our strength during our conditioning and lifting, he always was pushing our buttons, and it was always ring, ring, ring. The devil is here, because that mind, that voice in your head is coming out. And I think I'd have that championship mindset, because it's normal. It's natural for that devil to be in your head and say, hey, shut it down, man. This is too hard. Quit. This isn't easy. I think having that championship mindset is telling that devil to go to hell, and I'm gonna go about my business and get to where it needs to go. So deep, it's philosophical stuff, but it's a lot of having that mental mindset is very important.
Staying along those lines, and this was a question that was asked to both upperclassmen and underclassmen yesterday about the bowl drought and being able to snap that and everything that comes with it. With some of the younger players, and I thought Dylan, when he was asked this question, I want to believe that this is the mindset that he and Ja'Cory Barney and Carter Nelson and Willis McGahee and all the freshmen and even redshirt freshmen are sensing this, that they don't dwell on that as much. They don't dwell on one score losses because they haven't experienced it as much. But can you make a case that it's equally as important for them to get over this hump for this program, because all of a sudden you are setting the tone, especially for this younger group, that they're experiencing at the very least a bowl season, a winning season? And because I like how Dylan said, they came here to win. They're not thinking about bowl droughts. They came here to win games. And, he even threw out our mindset is to win the remaining games and get to 9-3. We know how important and what it means to the upperclassmen, but can you make the case that it's maybe as, if not even more important for these younger guys?
Oh, most definitely. That's the future of this program. There's a lot of guys who played a lot of football on this team, especially defensively. I think, what did I see? Bryce Benhart and Ty Robinson are going to play their 56th game on Saturday to tie Cam Meredith as the most played. I mean, that's crazy. But comes with that is PTSD and a lot of losses. And some of these young kids haven't experienced that, which I get, but sometimes experiencing some of those issues, and they have with some close losses, is a good thing, because you can failure is a teachable moment. Failure is a learning moment. Have things come easy is not that's not how you grow. So I think some of these kids are learning how to grow and process it. But you can see, we can also learn by example for some of these younger players, whether it's good or bad. The younger players learning from the older players, just by example, whether it's good or bad, how to do things, maybe not how to do things. But really just stepping in here, day one, and whether it's been in spring ball or they came in fall camp, and putting themselves in this process and understanding it and the work that goes into it. And I think Dylan fully understands that. And I think if anybody can get to his level and how he prepares and does things, this team's going to be fine. But yeah, I like, there's a lot of young players who, on this team, and they're going to be very, very important next year and in the year after, when hopefully this thing finally pops and you're, in early November, you're talking about making the college football playoff. But it's fun to see these young kids play. It's fun to see these young kids shine and make plays, because I know how difficult it is. I was nowhere near was ready to play as a true freshman. I'm always impressed to see all these young players just step out there, especially on the defensive end, and play on the D line or play on the edge, because that's a violent, physical place to play. But things are like I said, these young kids we got the right guys in place to bring these young guys along, and like I said, get this thing where it needs to go.
Appreciate it, Jake. Great stuff, and thank you for the little tour of your home office.
You bet. Anytime. Well, maybe next week we'll do the basement.
Hey, there you go.
All the jerseys are down there. We'll go all the jerseys.
Hey, mark it down. That's what we're doing next week during the bye week.
All right, sounds good.
That's Jay Moore, black shirt. You can see him on Big Red Wrap Up every Tuesday night.
I'm always curious if he just gets done with Arms Day. Jay Moore's arms are probably bigger than you, myself, and Jimmy's arms put together. And then there's probably still some room to spare too.
He's in great shape, man.
He is.
Jay and I are the same age. I'm willing to bet he's about 20 years younger physically.
So this happens every week, and I'm 99.9% confident. Everyone was always asking about the Jay Moore landscaping. He's a financial advisor. I'm 99.9% positive that he has nothing to do with that. That's not even related to his family. It just happens to be Jay Moore.
That first one, you had me confused with the peaceful garden.
People are always asking that question. Yeah, I know. Yeah, when he's out there, like, oh, okay, I can see him being in the landscaping business. No, he's a financial advisor. So,
all right, Brandon Vogel from Counter Read will come your way here in about 15 minutes on Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, join the VIP club and sign up for 1620 The Email. You'll be the first to know all the exciting content that's happening on 1620 The Zone, including sports news, contests, our four-quarter pick'em, promotions, and more. You can sign up at 1620thezone.com. And also, congratulations to our winner of week number 7, who graced us with his presence, too. Very cool to see our winner, Curtis Coatman, who was a perfect 10 of 10 in the four-quarter pick. And be sure to get in on the action again at 1620thezone.com.
So let's do a little speculating here. At Ohio State, where Ross Bjork is now the athletic director.
Yeah.
Did you see what the Admiral did?
Yeah, he got another one from Nebraska.
That's a good hire.
Yeah.
That's a good hire. Chris will do well at Ohio State. Kaepernick was hired by Ted Carter. That if by chance Ohio State down the road has to hire a football coach, is it scary that Ross Bjork actually may know what he's doing when it comes to hiring football coaches?
That's scary for the Big Ten, yeah.
So
yes.
I think Texas A&M finally got it right. They hired Mike Elko, and Texas A&M is in a really good spot in the SEC right now in the race to be in Atlanta, be in the playoff. They're a good football team who I thought after they got beat by Notre Dame, it was going to be a first year. This is going to be an 8-4 team because they'd gone 12-12 the previous 2 years with the elimination of Jimbo Fisher. But remember, Mark Stoops was pushed for this job. A&M fans, and you might be a cult. Well, you are.
They embrace it.
You got vindicated because you hired a football coach and not a flash dancer.
Right.
Finally, at a place like Texas A&M, which gets all excited by the bells and whistles, they hired a football coach who could just coach football with all of the advantages you have at Texas A&M, whereas Trev Alberts told me during the summer, they have more money than God at Texas A&M.
Take
that, a lot of oil money.
Where
a lot of oil money.
At Nebraska, it might take 10 calls to raise $10 million. At Texas A&M, it takes one call to raise $10 million. So they finally hired just a football coach. By the way, I think it has impacted Stoops' relationship with Kentucky because those people knew that he was dabbling with Texas A&M.
Oh, yeah, sometimes no going back.
Didn't get the job, so he had to go back, and people are like,
hey, 1 foot out the door, buddy.
Saw that here, Dana Altman. Dana Altman.
Glenn
Dana
Mason
Altman
at
2.0 at Creighton was not as good as 1.0.
Yep.
But they hired just a football coach. Now, he might have the largest head of anybody in college football.
And
I'm not kidding.
See him at the CWS and you couldn't see the game over his head.
Here's why he is like not what you would expect at Texas A&M, but he's exactly what you need. So he's at the College World Series. And I went down to visit Trev. I have a long relationship with Trev. I went into his suite. And Mike Elko, the football coach, with his wife are just sitting there. Everybody's leaving him alone. They're just watching Texas A&M and Tennessee play. He has a gigantic head. He may wear an 8 in a fitted ball cap.
That's
impressive.
If he's an 8.
But he looks like a football coach. They don't have a guy that looks like he should be selling you insurance or used cars. No offense. I don't want to stereotype, but you kind of get the general feeling of what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Ross Bjork got it right. They hired a football coach instead of the flash dancer, and look at the result. They're in a really good spot at Texas A&M. So if Ross Bjork has to hire a football coach at Ohio State that has got more money than God, does he use the same principle to hire a football coach over the flash and dash that, we got to have a name, and he says, no, we got to have a football coach.
And you can immediately point to look at what I did in my short time, or not my short time, but in my time before I left Texas A&M and getting them back on solid ground, depending on how this whole thing goes. But I think a lot of people would agree with the Mike Elko hire of that, which again, you're right. It wasn't, that's what money can buy. It was, okay, we'll see. Boy, Texas A&M, a lot different than Duke. SEC, high level, a lot different than ACC high level. And yeah, that's working out just fine. I would be curious because I saw somebody had mentioned on the stream that Chip Kelly, well, no, it was our buddy Iowa JD who said it'll be Chip Kelly running Ohio State's program next year. To me, that would be the flash dancer. That would not be just a football coach. Chip Kelly's
don't want to be a head coach.
Well, exactly. I mean, he left that opportunity anyway, left that gig anyway. But I know this is probably a premature conversation, but the perfect fit for Ohio State, that is a very interesting question. Of the football guy that could exist, a guy that is on that path that would not be necessarily that's the sexy hire as opposed to, well, if you just pay attention to what he did at his previous stop, boy, this makes a lot of sense.
Because athletic directors are attracted to glitz.
Yeah.
I mean,
winning the press conference.
Be great if you could be both.
We wonder, why are athletic directors, what is in their background that they know how to hire a coach?
Mm-hmm.
They haven't been a coach. Most of them haven't.
Yeah.
But I think what a coach, when he has to hire coaches, knows what he's looking for and is not all, oh my God, the glitz, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I want a guy that drives a pickup truck, okay, as my football coach.
It's got a
I don't
log
want a guy that says, hey, will I get a carport to drive my Ferrari in where nobody's going to touch it?
Yeah.
So Lincoln's out.
They hired
Riley.
a football coach over glitz.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking, I watched a lot of college football show on ESPN yesterday, and it got me thinking. So Indiana is the man of the day. Okay, they are the program of the hour. People love Signetti.
Yep.
Signetti is everywhere. He's doing interviews. People have, after Nebraska played Indiana, and listening to Signetti, if you didn't already know him and you hadn't Googled him, you said, that's Bo. Isn't Kirk Signetti at Indiana what Bo Pelini and Scott Frost would be if they had a child?
Not where I thought that was going.
I see what you're getting to, because there is a lot of the Bo mannerisms with Signetti, but maybe the only thing that is still kind of missing, and that's between the two of them, is Signetti. Well, okay, no, all right. Frost had a little bit better of the, lack of a better term, bedside manner than maybe what Bo had. Like he would do the song and dance for the.
So they would wash each other out.
Yeah,
I think that's what happens when you have a kid.
Yeah,
don't have any experience.
Yeah, but there's a little bit, maybe a little bit more decorum or the bedside manner as far as handling the external factors that Frost maybe did just a tad better than Bo, at least the way that he presented it. But they're towards the end. I mean, Scott and Bo were essentially the same.
But I'm looking at those two guys in Nebraska were very, very confident.
Yep.
One was super cocky, but had no things to back it up with.
Yeah.
But if you look at Signetti, and I'm okay with him. He beat Nebraska's ass. All right. He's a good football coach that has won everywhere.
Yep.
He's going to have a hiccup where they might be a 5-7 team.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, pretty impressive hire.
Yeah.
He's got a really good offensive mind, and he's really cocky.
Mm-hmm.
So you get the Bo fiery, and that's what Frost was.
Yeah, I see where you're getting at there.
So Kirk Signetti is the kid that Bo and Scott Frost had.
They got in the lab and somehow created
I'm
that.
not sure how Signetti did not get some of the looks of Frost.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But he got the nose and he got some of the other Italian stuff.
He did.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even when he talks.
Because he's a yinzer.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of the mannerisms that do come out. He's a little bit more, I think he's a little bit more open to the conversation than sometimes Bo would be. But everything is very abrupt with him. I mean, you're not going to get him to expand on a whole heck of a lot. He's very black and white, very to the point. I think Frost would expand a little bit. Again, I'm going into maybe more of the part about how he presents himself and his program. But as far as their area of expertise, yeah, you've nailed it. That's in the lab, the Scott Frost Bo Pelini child that they created in the lab. Because obviously, two humans couldn't do that way.
I never know. I mean, things are changing by the day.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go there.
We put a man on the moon.
We landed on the moon.
Brandon Vogel from Countery.com will stop by next. It's Mornings with Sharp and Handley and Jimmy on 1620 The Zone. All right, time to welcome in our good friend from counterread.com, Brandon Vogel. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Not too bad. How are you guys doing?
What hat are you wearing today?
Oh, just a kind of Western hat from a brand called Wythe. Just a clothing label.
All right. Didn't know if you had a deal.
I wish, but no, not yet.
Let's don't play the scoreboard in the final 4 games of the month of November. Don't worry about the scoreboard, wins or losses. A couple of things that would show you momentum and progress going into the offseason if you saw them in this month.
Oh, I mean, I think it's probably not happening, but so it would definitely qualify then as a sign of progress. Like if you saw the run game come together a little bit over the final 4 games, I think that would be a very good sign. I think it's an important month for Dylan Raiola, and for what comes next for him to see him continue to develop. I thought he did pretty well with a big challenge against Ohio State. So seeing him to kind of continue to mature. I mean, I think that's still the biggest thing with him. Like he's obviously very talented. It's just kind of the savviness of having played some college football to this point. And, he's only played 8 games, so that's to be expected. Defensively, they've been really consistent, minus that Indiana game over really 2 seasons. So that one's kind of like anything I see there, I don't think surprises me too much. So most of it's on the offensive side.
And okay, with what you just said too, with the maybe a little bit of improvement in the rushing game at 126 yards per game right now, but 3.7 per carry. Is there a number that would tell you, okay, now that's improvement? Is there a certain number that you would feel confident in saying, whether it's per carry or just average per game it shoots up to, that you'd say, now that's improvement, I like where that's headed?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of need to be above 4, I think, to be a functional rush offense, and even that, I'm guessing off the top of my head, puts you somewhere around the middle of the country. And Nebraska hasn't been there, so it would be a tough poll to average that for the season based on what you can do over the last 4 games against the teams that you're going to face. But even averaging that in November, I mean, if Nebraska averages 4 yards a carry in November,
yeah,
they've got a great shot to, I think, really close this season on a high note. Why is that going to come? There's kind of nothing that's pointed me towards that. This UCLA team this week, pretty consistent against the run, no matter in wins or losses. So I've been a little bit impressed with that rush defense of what I've seen from the Bruins so far.
If you just looked at the box score and the analytical numbers from Saturday, how does Nebraska not win that game?
I mean, it's the big plays are the big thing. I mean, it's remarkable. I kind of wrote about this on Monday. Like Ohio State couldn't really drive the ball against Nebraska. Now they're Ohio State and they're a legitimate championship contender because when they had to have a drive, they got it. And that was after basically not being able to do that in the second half in particular. But I think there's this notion of explosive plays that can be out there that that's like North Texas stuff. That's UCF in 2017 stuff. These high flying offenses, but for Ohio State, they were essential, and they had 100 yards on 2 plays, both of which were touchdown receptions. Big deals because Ohio State hadn't been able, like, it's just about, and this is a problem, and I tried to link it to this with Nebraska's offense. Like the longer you ask an offense to stay on the field, and these are college kids, the more opportunities they have to make a mistake, essentially. So it largely, I think, comes down to that for me in terms of the loss to Ohio State.
A big part of the offense in the conversation this week has been the horizontal passing game. Matt Rule and even Marcus Satterfield didn't shoot it down. We're not going to see, that's being scrapped from the playbook. The explanation of the why, I think, is one that probably didn't surprise a lot of people. It's just the when in certain occasions. When you look at what Nebraska is trying to get accomplished and what you anticipate seeing going forward, what type of volume do you think we'll see when it does come to either the screen game or just the overall horizontal pass game in its entirety?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's probably not going to change drastically from what they've been at for the season as a whole. That said, I do kind of buy the reasoning against Ohio State.
Yep.
Get the ball out quick. So that game was probably a little bit heavier. We've seen no indication, I don't think, that they're going to stop running those plays because they're struggling to block them. So they're probably gonna keep coming. I mean, it's tough with the lack of a consistent run threat, and the deep passes have kind of faded a little bit as Nebraska's gotten deeper into Big Ten play. So when you're running those screenplays, like the threat of something else isn't there that much, which I think contributes a little bit to, the coaches, of course, put it on their guys and say, oh, we got to get better at perimeter blocking. But I don't think the defense has to be afraid of what happens if it sells out against that. Alex Bullock is out there because I think he's one of Nebraska's best blocking wide receivers. He's got one catch on the year. Like, if you want to be able to run screens with him out there, you can't just put him out there and say, well, here's our best blocker.
Yeah.
Get him a catch or two. Like, have some sort of constraint play off of that burns a team and asks them to defend you honestly. So there's a lot of potential angles, I think, when we talk about Nebraska's offense.
Brandon Vogel from counterread.com joining us. I'm glad you brought this up because it is it kind of shows you the good and the bad of the offense on Saturday. That Ja'Cory Barney had 7 catches for 49 yards and 51 of them came after contact. So you're like, hey, how does the math work there? But let's go even deeper on the math. So let's go back to Indiana. In the last 2 games, 20 targets, 15 receptions for Barney. Now into the final 4 games, and he's healthy, and you can kind of see what they have with him, but you maybe are like, well, what should they do with him? What is the ideal role you think for Nebraska to have success on offense with a guy they definitely want to use in the last 4 games?
The usage rate probably comes down a little bit. I mean, I think that's where we've seen the most success for him this season. So it was a little bit better against Ohio State, of course, but Banks and Nayor been pretty quiet overall post the first bye week. We've seen a rise in Fedoni's targets and catches and yards, which is a good and welcome development, but I think, hey, to a certain degree, there's like get the ball to your best guy as often as you can. That said, like for as good as Barney is, like it's not Rondale Moore right now, where it's just like, oh, you couldn't give him the ball enough, or even Wan'Dale Robinson to a degree, while at Nebraska and at Kentucky as well. So I think the fact that you're kind of seeing those targets have gone up, the usage has gone up, but we haven't seen as many big plays out of him tells me that Nebraska's probably overutilizing him a little bit. And now this is against the 2 toughest teams they've played so far too. So I kind of get it, but as the schedule, like it doesn't get easy, but it levels out a little bit. Like a lot of the remaining 4 games are all like winnable either way for either team, I think, based on what we know now. So getting Barney involved smartly, but also kind of spreading the ball around a little bit, I think helps the offense the most overall, rather than boosting more touches for him.
Brandon, the UCLA matchup's interesting from the standpoint that they don't run the football particularly well. There's not really a commitment to running the football, but Garbers he'll chuck it. A little bit of the quick passing game. Certain things that at times have given Nebraska defensively some issues. When you look at what you've taken away from this defense as a whole and in their response last week in this matchup against UCLA, more confident that this defense, even without the steady running commitment to the running game that UCLA doesn't really have, that this defense can still kind of feast on this UCLA offense a little bit more? Or is there concern?
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I think Garbers is probably the biggest threat to Nebraska defensively in this game. Like we've seen him play pretty well at times. And when Nebraska has lost this season, opponents are averaging over 10 yards per pass attempt in Nebraska's losses this year. Um, that Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio State. So it's not like this secondary just has everything locked down, no matter what happens. So that's a concern. I think the big thing for Nebraska, though, um, they rank in the top 20 in havoc rate. This UCLA offense ranks in the bottom 20 in havoc rate allowed. I think that's the matchup when it comes to that, because I would expect UCLA to throw it probably 35, 40 times. Can they withstand Nebraska's pressure? I think they've given up 20 sacks on the season. So in terms of that, like you always have to worry about kind of the big plays and that piece of it. But down to down, I think Nebraska has a pretty big advantage there, just in their ability to be disruptive.
Is this going to be a slow, boring football game on Saturday?
I think you want it to be. If you're a Husker fan, I could see, not to the extent of what we saw in the first half, but I could see this being fairly Purdue-like. UCLA scored 35 in the win over Rutgers, kind of out of nowhere. They'd been 17 or under at every game prior to that, which, as we talked about last week, is like the range for Nebraska's defense. So I rarely feel this way, but I feel pretty good about Nebraska's chances to pull away in this one if they play well. Games can get random and in a hurry, and you got to avoid. I think Raiola particularly needs to avoid the interceptions, which haven't been a big issue, but you have some. But if that happens, and if Nebraska, like Rule said, picks up kind of where they left off, I think this one has the potential to look like most of the other home games that we've seen from the Huskers this season, more so than it looks like the Illinois game, which is the outlier.
I've asked this a couple of times this week, and I heard Satterfield was even asked the question yesterday about it, on how it impacts the offense. But what you saw John Hull pull off on the road against Ohio State, is that something to monitor, especially when Nebraska is getting into the opponent's 40 and beyond, of how they decide to go about second and third down in particular?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's not just do we feel like we can make this, but how aggressive are you going to be play calling wise on those drives in opponent territory? And the other thing I think it changes, which will probably be big in November, is offensively. Nebraska had a drive like this last week where you had the ball, potentially having the ball last, like you got to go get points.
Mm-hmm.
A field goal wouldn't have done them any good, but it just kind of changes, I think, the mindset from a play calling perspective, but also for the players of like, now having seen him have a couple of those makes, it's like, well, if we can get into field goal range and that's what we need, maybe we can win this game, versus like, we got to get it down to the 15 before we feel good about trying a field goal.
Hey, great stuff as always. I know the game day guide is being put together as well. I really enjoyed. Speaking of November and people that are subscribers to the Substack, Aaron had a really good article on November and about Nebraska's struggles and how they might be able to get over them. I highly recommend it if you have not as a subscriber. And if you are not a subscriber, subscribe to counterread.com. What else do you have coming up that does not include the very extensive and must-read game day guide?
Yep. So next week, we'll go into the bye week. So I'll have my regular kind of Monday recap, which will probably be a little bit bigger picture, using that bye week. And then I'm about to hop on a web conference with the college football playoff committee chair.
Nice.
So planning some playoff stuff for probably next Thursday, where that game preview usually goes.
Nice. Fantastic, right, my friend. Hope all is well to you and the fam. Always look forward to our chats on Wednesday, and also all the content you're churning out. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
That's Brandon Vogel from counterread.com. It is a must-have for Husker fans. Just subscribe to it. Pretty easy, and you get all the goodies, including some Brandon isms in his writing that you'll see on his Monday column.
More treats than tricks?
Oh, I like that.
Mm.
I like that. Tomorrow's Halloween.
Do you guys want?
By the way, Dirk Diggler will not be making an appearance this year.
I was going to ask. We
do have HR again.
I was going to ask about costumes. I did find.
Why don't you wear one tomorrow?
Well, I have the Bane mask from a few years ago that I did find in the move, so I can rock the Bane mask if you guys want.
We'll expect it.
You still have that dodgeball or kickball outfit that when you got here and they put your picture up there?
No, that was no. I sure don't. Sure don't have that one.
All right, I'm looking forward to
maybe a segment in a Bane voice.
I like it.
I was molded by it. We could
Sounds
make
like
maybe a
James
UCLA
Cromwell
Nebraska matchup in a Bane voice thing, a breakdown by Bane.
Can you do 4 hours?
Ooh, 4 might be a stretch. Maybe I can give you an hour.
Okay. Well, I'll expect it tomorrow.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to this.
I'll bring in Bane.
All
Bane
right.
will be coming tomorrow.
Have a great day, everybody. Tomorrow we're back in at 6 and a day closer to UCLA and Nebraska. For Jimmy, for Nick, I'm Gary. Crossovers coming up next on 1620 The Zone.